Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the fourth and final day of time trials, or as Derek Daly calls it,
we are here for Bubble Day.
Bubble Day. This is the day that can make all the difference in the world at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The weather here is perfect for the spectators. Bright blue skies overhead, lots of sun, good temperatures, but maybe a little too much sun on the racetrack. It should cool down in a bit, and when it does, we should really see some action. Now, what this is going to do is give us a great opportunity to talk all about the wonderful stories here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's first of all run down the rules of Bubble Day. It's very simple. Once the field is full, 33 cars, 11 rows of 3, if you can qualify faster than the slowest car in the field, wherever it may be, that car comes out and you move your car into 33rd position. And that process continues to repeat itself. The real story here, Derek Daly, is the fact that if yesterday they were struggling, what are the Penske's doing today? They're still not in.
And it's hard to believe that the struggle continues, and I wonder at the end of the day, will we replace the word struggle with maybe with the word embarrassment, because it would be embarrassing for Roger Penske to miss this race. Think of it like this. Marlboro Team Penske is the benchmark that everybody measures themselves against on performance level and presentation. Well, the presentation as ever is immaculate, but the speed simply has not been there any day this month. They've gone through 4 cars. Started off with a 95 Penske, went back to the 94 Penske, a 94 Reynard, a 95 Lola seemed to be the ticket. However, the speed never came. Now, this morning, in conditions that we thought were maybe ideal, people like Davy Jones, who were also struggling yesterday, did lap speeds of 226 miles an hour. Penske's never made it over 223, so the struggle continues. Now consider this. What happens at the end of the day? Let's say there's 5 minutes to go and we have a Penske driver, Junior or Emerson, in the field. Maybe he's on the bubble. What happens if the other Penske driver's in line to potentially push him out of the race? I mean, we could have a catastrophe at the end of the day.
As if we don't have enough nightmares with those possibilities here. You saw Roger Penske just a moment ago down in the pits. Al Unser Jr. is in the 21T car. That is the Renard. Our best indication is that that's not a car that they're particularly interested in. So, Derek, why is it out there?
Well, here's the reason. We saw yesterday Al Unser Jr. took 2 legitimate qualifying attempts in the Lola. One, he simply wasn't fast enough. The second one, the Mercedes engine blew up halfway through. He's only allowed 1 more in that car. If it's not fast enough, he has no other options except the Reynard. It's an officially entered car here. Therefore, that car has 3 more attempts. But the chances really of Al Jr. in that probably 50 minutes of cool weather that's probably faster this evening, the chances of him having 4 attempts at qualifying for this race is very slim, Paul. You know that.
That car is the backup to the backup.
Yes, yeah.
Who knows? So there is that car, and we will be watching that one and a number of others, all multicolored, that are coming out of the Penske stables today. Let's run up and down the pits now. Well, we'll begin with showing you the grid as it was at the start of business this morning. Scott Brayton, of course, still on the pole. Nothing changes there than Arie Luyendyk and Scott Goodyear.
Row 2 has Michael Andretti, who was on the front row for day 1. Then he was pushed off by Scott Goodyear. Jacques Villeneuve, second last year. And Big Mo from Brazil, Gugelmin.
In the 3rd row, Robbie Gordon, Scott Pruitt, and Jimmy Vasser.
Row 4, Matt Schuster, exceptional performance from him on Firestone tires. Stan Fox on Firestone, and making it an all Firestone row, Andre Ribeiro.
Ribeiro right now the fastest rookie in the field. The record holder is on the inside of row 5. He still holds the record from '92, Roberto Guerrero. Then Eddie Cheever and Teo Fabi to the outside.
Back to row 6. Paul Tracy, disappointed, but he's very safe. Zampedri, another Firestone runner. And high-speed Brian Herta, who had a monster crash here last week.
Looking further down in the field now, Danny Sullivan to the inside of row 7, the 85 winner. Rookie Jill DeFerrin and Hidesi Matsuda, a sophomore here at the Speedway.
Row 8, Bobby Rahal. His car is now in the hands of Emerson Fittipaldi, his backup car. Bozell has given his backup car to Al Jr. And then the man of the moment with a golden opportunity is in John Menard's car, Buddy Lazier.
In the 9th row, Eliseo Salazar to the inside. Adrian Fernandez with a spectacular run yesterday. And Eric Bachelard did pretty good as well, getting in on the outside of the 9th row.
Row 10, Christian Fittipaldi. In the middle, the fastest woman in the world, Lynn St. James. And then the slowest qualifier in the field, Frank Frion from Paris.
So that's the way we left you yesterday. At the moment at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the crowds are here. The fans are enjoying the great sunshine. Not that many cars on the race course. Of course, it is very hot out there. Most of the practicing that has happened today happened during the time the 500-mile race will be run this coming Sunday. Here are the cars with the qualifying attempts remaining. Those who have not yet made it into the field. And of course, top of that list, Al Unser and Emerson Fittipaldi.
And the important thing here to note, it is the car that qualifies, not the driver. So as we go down through this list, look at the names like Johansson. Mike Groff is here. He attempted to qualify yesterday. But Al Unser Jr., as we go to page 2, you'll see his name pop up again, and that is the Reynard. 3 attempts left in that Reynard. You'll see Stefan Johansson also has 2 attempts in another car, the 16T.
Johansson probably the second story, right behind Penske, in very much the same boat. Let's go up and down the pits now and start with Jerry Punch.
Guys, it's hard to believe the winningest car owner in Indy 500 history is in a world of hurt right now. That's exactly what's happening with Roger Penske. Behind me, they continue to work here. We might update the fact Derek mentioned that both of the 95 Lolas have been out this morning. Fittipaldi, the 9T, ran 16 laps. His best speed, 2:22.4. Little Al in the 11T ran 28 laps. His best speed, 2:22.513. Now, they will hold both those cars and hope to bring them out later in the day, approximately 4:30. Put them in line around 5:15, 5:20, with roughly 40 minutes of Central Time remaining in qualifying. Hope to get those 2 cars in the field now. If they talk about Penske being the magician here, having magic at the Brickyard, well, rather than pulling a rabbit out of the hat, he pulled a Reynard out. As you mentioned, behind me, the 1994 Reynard they had gotten from Pagan Racing. John Barnes is here from Pagan Racing, trying to help them get up to speed, but thus far, their laps just a moment ago, 2:10, 2:11, 2:12, and that will not get it done for Team Penske. They are struggling. Hopefully, the Lolas will be up to speed. And remember, Al Jr. has just 1 attempt remaining. If he does not make it in the Lola, the next option is the car behind me, and that car is some 13 miles per hour slower than what he would need to get in the field. So drama builds here at Team Penske. Let's check in up pit road with Gary Gerald.
And Jerry, just a couple of pits away from Team Penske, and where you're located, more drama, more suspense for A.J. Foyt and his team. Eddie Cheever safely in the field. Scott Sharp, who signed on with A.J. here just a week or so ago, is sitting right now in the cockpit of the 14T car. They came out this morning. They ran 226.5 miles per hour. Good, solid numbers, but the conditions in that practice session were ideal. Temperatures have come up. Speeds, as usual, have slowed down. It's the waiting game now. But for this team, there's the added element of suspense. This car already has 2 qualifying attempts. You only get 3 in the car. So it's make it or break it in this 1995 Lola chassis for Scott Sharp. So they'll be in line shortly after 5 o'clock, waiting for the shadows in the front straightaway and the cooler temperatures, hoping that they can get the speed. Now, just moments ago in the heat of the day, they topped 221 miles per hour. So they're getting the setup that they're comfortable with. If they don't make it on the 3rd and final attempt with this car, they do have the 41T car, but it's a 94 Reynard. It's back in Gasoline Alley. We may be able to see that car if, in fact, this one's not able to get in. They think they're going to get this one in the show, but it's all part of the ongoing drama and suspense that builds now over the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. Gentlemen?
In fact, at the end of the day, the word desperation you will find used replacing struggle, and as Derek suggested, perhaps embarrassment. Let's take you back to 12 o'clock local time now, when the track was first open for qualification. 1 car making a presentation. That was the 22 car of Carlos Guerrero. Not Roberto, but Carlos from Mexico.
And I'd have to say this might have been a bit of a surprise because, oh, see how close he got to the wall there? Because the temperature had come up so much. Remember, today's qualifying did not start until 12 o'clock, midday. Yet Carlos Guerrero rolled off speeds that were, I thought, extremely good. He's the man that crashed just a few days ago coming off turn 4, did some heavy damage to the right side of the car. Never been here before, never gone through this pressure-packed situation. And the first lap is always a good gauge as to whether you have consistency, and after that, whether you have speed.
bit of a break in tradition. Normally you wouldn't go out at 12 noon on the final day, but the first lap blistered off at 225.4. I think a surprise to everybody.
And just look at the speed he carried in through turn 1, 233. That's how you measure. When you get those 3s and 3s at the apex points and down the back straight. What's the 226? See that? Replaced by 1 mile an hour. It's okay to do it for 1 lap. The most unusual qualifying in the world, though, takes place here at Indianapolis. You have to do 4 full hard laps. Drivers say they hold their breath, but you can see there the speed went up.
Look at that jump to 226, averaging 225.765, but keep an eye on the back end of this car. It twitched several times during this run.
And we saw Adrian Fernandez, his fellow countryman, qualify yesterday. He said the whole country of Mexico would be happy that he got in. Well, the Mexican colors are carried here by Guerrero. And of course, a rookie here, he draws on the considerable experience of Dick Simon, the owner who has brought more rookies here successfully. And whenever they're in trouble, he gets help from his teammates and from Dick. And here's the result. Lap speed's good enough to put him in the field.
Lap 3 at 225.802, averaging still 225.7 in the high heat of the day.
And he knows himself that this is quick enough if he just keeps the consistency down through turns 3 and 4. See that apex speed at turn 1 still good. Brings it up a mile an hour again into turn 3. He tries to go flat through turn 3. Loose a bit in the short shoot. Look at the exit speed, 221. Same 221. There's the consistency and the lap speed.
So he took the lap, 4 laps with an average of 225.831 miles an hour. When the run was over, he talked with Jan Beekes.
Well, Carlos, congratulations on a great run. Were you at all spooked by your crash on Friday?
Yeah, my team make an incredible job, fix this car because my backup car is a 94. I'm very proud to be part of Dick Simon Racing because they are incredible. Yeah, they work very hard to fix this one. They knew that this is the one that we needed, and they put me a very good car even in a very hot day, and we are solid in the grid.
Now it is hot right now. You have a high 225. Are you happy with that? Are you pretty comfortable?
Yeah, pretty comfortable because that means high 28s in a cool day. So I'm very happy, and now we have to work on full tanks and everything because we are part of the 500.
Carlos Guerrero starting his first Indy 500.
We continue to track Roger Penske's story and Al Unser Jr. Let's go to Jerry Punch. Apparently we've lost contact with Jerry Punch. You can see little Al's Reynard sitting there. He's not around it. We'll keep track of this story, and what we'll do is we'll go away and give you a few commercial messages. When we come back, we'll try to have an update on this and let you know who's practicing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Now,
ESPN's coverage of the 4th and final day of time trials from Indianapolis is brought to you today by Goodyear. #1 in racing, #1 in tires. By Budweiser, the king of beers. This Bud's for you. And by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. Well, here at Indianapolis, practice continues to be underway. It is really too warm for the truly high-speed runs. Penske's contingent, as you can see, continues to wait and watch. We'll try to get in touch with Jerry Punch shortly as he watches this situation. Roger Penske has fielded a car in 26 consecutive years at the 500, most of those in the top 10. He has never been in the situation he finds himself in here, trying to struggle into the field on the last day of qualifying.
Now let's give you a little background on this Reynard car here. This is one of Roberto Guerrero's spare cars. Pagan Racing leased it to Roger Penske. Penske immediately rebuilt the car. He was not comfortable putting one of his drivers into somebody else's racing car. They had 20 men on the car for for 12 hours in one day. That's 240 man-hours just to rebuild this car and turn it around. Al Jr. took it out 3 or 4 days ago, and in about 40 laps only did a 218-mile-an-hour run and didn't believe this was the ticket to get them the speed, so they put it away. Of course, then things went from bad to worse. Then the Lola's 2 attempts came yesterday that came to nothing, and then they decided to go down to Stefan Johansson's garage. He had a 94 Reynard that did 226 miles an hour, so Al Jr. decided to bring the Reynard back out again, and Jerry Punch is down there.
Well, apparently what they have done is, Derek, they have made an administrative decision about the car number 21T, and what we are told they're going to do, they ran out just a few minutes ago and ran a couple laps. The maximum they could get was 213.9 out of this car, so they said we're going to pull Al Jr. out of the car. We're going to have him back in the garage area. We're going to rest him. In about an hour, we're going to bring out the 95 Lolas and run some laps, try to get that car up to speed, and then possibly roll the dice, put all the dice in one hand. We're going to put everything we can in one hand. That's going to be the 95 Lola, because apparently this car, the time is running out. 214 miles per hour will not get it. Al Jr. back in the garage to rest. He gets one more shot at qualifying with the 1995 Lola. If that doesn't work, this will be the answer. But this answer right now is some 12 miles an hour slower than what he would need to get in the field. Gentlemen?
And there is real no comparison. We were talking back in the media center, and all of the writers back there have been trying to find another comparison in sports to the fact that Roger Penske may possibly not be in the Indianapolis 500, and there really is one. There is no comparison you can find. There's not a team that's always in the series or the Super Bowl. It's really a remarkable situation.
I've never seen anything like this before. I don't think anybody here has ever seen a struggle like this before from a front-running, the best team in the business. Now, to give you an idea, just look at the record of Team Penske here. 29 times car starting on the front row of the grid. And on the last row, well, they'd been there before. But that, you see that was a car qualified by my case. But let me give you an idea of how critical time is here. Speed is what we reference everything by, but in fact it's all measured in time. 224 is a speed nobody would consider taking. 226 sounds an awful lot faster and very safe. Well, to go that 2 miles an hour faster, it's only 0.2 of a second approximately, around 2.5 miles of a racetrack. That's a fraction in each corner. That's the amount Roger Penske is missing, and it's so difficult to find that sweet spot that will give him that tiny piece of time that gets translated into miles, into speed.
Another one of the stories we're following here today is one of a very nice man, a good race driver, and one of the true gentlemen here, Mike Groff. He's with Jan Beekes.
That's right, Paul. He's another one of these drivers that's looking for that sweet spot. Now tell me, Mike, you just came out of the car. How does it feel in the heat of the day?
Well, actually, right now, I don't think the conditions are all that good. We had the Target car out just a few minutes ago, and we were scrubbing tires, actually race tires, and I think now's a good time. It's a little windy, a little warm. We're going to wait a little bit. How long we'll wait, I'm not really sure.
Now tell me, do you know really what your job description is? You know you're supposed to get a car in the field, but do you have any idea whether you'll be driving that or not, or whether Brian Herta might get in that car?
Well, I think team owner Chip Ganassi really holds the cards to that answer. I think right now, primary concern is to keep Brian Herta's Target car in the race. You know, we're going to work hard to defend his position. I think he's in with a 225.5. It should be safe, but you never know. There's some hot shoes waiting on the line here. So, you know, if we do have a run at it, we'll run a little over 225.5. We'll probably have a go, and you might see 3 Target cars in the race on Sunday.
Now tell me, what happened yesterday? You had speed yesterday, but then you went out to qualify and nothing was there.
Well, actually, we warmed up pretty good. We went out. We had a boost regulator fail on us on the back straightaway on the first lap, and we still did a middle 24, which wouldn't have put us in the field, but, you know, it wasn't a great lap. So, you know, we're hoping that we've got those gremlins behind us and get some good conditions right around happy hour between 5 and 6, and we'll have a go at it.
All right, we look forward to that run.
Thanks.
Well, the situation here at Indianapolis now is we are under a green light for practice. The track could be used for qualification should someone choose to do so. 31 cars have qualified into the 33-car field. Once the other two positions are filled, the bumping process begins, and that's when you sit on the bubble. Rick Mears talks with Morris Nunn. We'll be right back. Back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Derek, when we're talking about this pop-off valve and some of the problems, many of the guys have complained that it's popping open on them. Isn't that just an instantaneous thing and then it closes, or how long do you suffer from it?
And that's exactly what happened to Marco Greco in Rick Ellis's car yesterday when he had the speed but didn't have the engine power because he blew the pop-off valve. It's actually been a regular complaint here all through this month of May that the valve does not seal. I'm not sure it's defective, but the key to it is drivers have a tendency to try, there's the pop-off valve right there, sits on top of the plenum, on top of the induction chamber, and when the turbocharger blows into that induction chamber, it's got a huge force. It's only allowed a certain amount. At 45 inches, that valve will pop open and suddenly your horsepower goes out through the top of the valve. Now, it's a tendency for the drivers, if they read on their digital dashboard that it only has 44.6, they begin to inch up. They have a controller in the cockpit that begin to turn it up a little bit, then they get too greedy. Then the valve pops open and suddenly it's all gone. Now, here's the problem. The pop-off valve is set by USAC back in Gasoline Alley. The digital readout in the cars is set by computer. One is not linked to the other. So what your computer tells you is the figure they programmed in there, not actually what the valve is doing. Therefore, the tendency to wind it up and get what you perceive at 45 inches on your dashboard may in fact be more than the valve can handle.
And in fact, to make it even more complex, all of the valves are set for a specific barometric pressure at the start of the month and never change. So when fronts come through and the changing in the barometric pressure here occurs, well, now it's an even harder proposition. And the key at Indianapolis is momentum. And if you lose any of it at all, it follows you all the way around the track for a full lap. Now, let's go up the pits once again. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, as you see, that they're pulling some of the cars up pit road, getting ready. Where goes the Lola for Penske by us. And speaking of drivers who are watching and waiting and car owners, Tony Bettenhausen, what's the status now? Yesterday, you and Stefan went out, made a run, and waved it off.
Well, we had a 2:25.5 warm-up lap yesterday, and which was very impressive considering he left the pit. We started the watch coming off of 4, and as he got the green, that lap was 25.5, and he was flat through 1 and 2, and halfway down the back straightaway on the first lap, the valve came open, the pop-off valve, and at that, he was still 25.1. But with a car that we've only had for 4 or 5 days, it doesn't have a lot of the instrumentation on it that some of the newer cars have, and he didn't know the valve was open, and the next 2 laps were 24s, and we waved it off.
Now, you guys, you got a 94 Reynard Cosworth from RCR Wells, and had to sort of do what Roger did and sort of jettison the Penske situation, the Mercedes situation for now. Now, when the valve opens, when Stefan's in the car, you realize you've just basically thrown a lap, maybe a lap and a half away?
When the valve opens, you've thrown an attempt away, really. It's you just have to come completely out of the throttle, turn the boost back out of it, get the valve closed, and then start sneaking the boost back in. And what happened in our case is the first time in 3 days of running the car that the Alumax car had opened the valve, and it was a case, I think, of Stefan just really giving it 101%, and he drove it a little bit harder than he had obviously in practice, and that was enough to open the valve.
What do you use to know when you want to go out? Do you look at the air temperature? Do you check with the Goodyear engineers the track temperature? Do you look at the watch? I mean, what is the telling tale is when you say, okay, put Stefan in line?
As close to 5 minutes to 6 as you can make it. That's when you want to go out. You want to go out as late as you can, but we still have 2 attempts available. I think we'd like to make one sometime after 5, and if that doesn't pan out, we can make some adjustments and give it a go again before 6. But it looks like there's going to be about 14 cars, including the backup cars for the guys that are close to being bumped. They're going to be jockeying in the line, and if somebody sticks it in the fence, you could lose 20 minutes there. So it's going to be a real iffy situation. It should be stressful.
Speaking of stress, you'd think with all you guys go through, someone could pick up an antacid sponsorship here for Indy for the month of May after all that goes on with you and Roger Penske and the other owners. But is there anything on the circuit that compares to what you go through here for the 3 or 4 weeks?
No, unfortunately. Fortunately, this is an old format, and it's one that I wish wasn't around anymore. You know, you're forced to run all the miles here because there are 4 days of qualifications, and it's just it's brutal on the competitors, and it eats up about 35% of every team's budget. So, you know, I guess in our case it's a good thing there is a day 4, but you know, we'll just have to see. And acid isn't strong enough. It takes Zantac now for a car owner.
Going into the big meds here, Tony B. Thanks a lot for good luck to you. Tony Bettenhausen waiting for his driver Stefan Johansson to make possibly the first of 2 runs, if necessary, around 5 o'clock, guys.
And to some degree, still keeping his sense of humor. Now, that platform there is the start of the tech line. 4 qualifications. There is no car presenting itself there now. That's Carlos Guerrero's car, already qualified, sitting just north of it. And the key is that whenever somebody decides to run for that line, then you're going to see everybody will run for that line. And the question is, will it be at 5 o'clock? Will it be at 5:15, 5:30? That's only a question the competitors can answer. So at Indianapolis, Lynn St. James has been out. He's a little bit worried about being bumped out as well. We'll be back. We're back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 4th and final day of time trials. I'm Paul Page with Derek Daly here. Practice continues. Green light for practice. Scott Sharp and A.J. Foyt's car just being rolled up the pits a few moments ago. You saw a glimpse of Al Unser Jr., who is making an appearance back at the line now and has been out in the 11T car. That's Teo Fabi, already qualified into the field here as he scrubs tires and prepares for race day.
Teo Fabi, who's one of the, I wouldn't say smaller teams, but one of the new, very well-organized teams here, run by Tony Brunetti. In fact, Teo has been the 2nd fastest man out today, above 228 miles an hour. But Tony Bettenhausen mentioned something earlier that could be very relevant at the end of this day when the desperation begins to come in. If somebody has an accident and hits the wall, that suddenly throws all your plans out the window, because you're trying to gauge the time to qualify between 5:15 and 6 o'clock. But if somebody has a big incident and the track gets put into yellow flag condition for a long cleanup, suddenly the line forms here, and you may not get that opportunity that you plan for all through the day.
The slowest speed in the field right now belongs to the 92 car of Frank Freon at 224.432 miles an hour. Should anybody go slower than that, he's going to have a little breathing room. But right now, once the final 2 cars are qualified into the field, he's going to be a very, very nervous guy. Eh, Gary Gerald?
Well, Paul, you're exactly right. We're looking at that number 92 car right now, and part of the great success story for the rookie Frank Freon from France is the fact that this is a 3-year-old chassis. It's a 1992 chassis, and incidentally carries the number 92. Steve Erickson owns and has prepared this car, and Frank, you put together yesterday as we were going off the air 4 terrific laps. I think you squeezed everything there was to squeeze out of this race car, and I know it brought a big smile to your face, but now this suspense is starting to build because you don't know if it's going to be good enough to stay in the race.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yesterday I really did my best, you know, to with this car. That's a pretty old car, but I mean, I had the Firestone tires, and they helped me a lot, and it's great for Steve Erickson and Autosport Racing. I mean, we don't have a great budget. It's not up-to-date equipment, but I mean, we worked hard and have first-class guys, and they make the difference. So I'm very happy. Now I just have to, you know, we are crossing our fingers, and we'll see, we'll wait, because we don't have any backup car. That's the only car. And we hope to make the show. It would be fantastic.
Now, at one point earlier today, we had heard that there was the possibility that John Menard, who has some 93 chassis with the Menard engine, might have a car available for you. Is that no longer the case?
No, it's not anymore, because, you know, we run out of time. I mean, John Menard was really good to us. That's a Lola Menard. I mean, we got this car from John. And but I mean, that's not the 95 Rocket engine, you know, it's a 94, and the 95 doesn't even fit the car. But I mean, but John was really good to us, and we tried to find some solution. And I think after the run yesterday, I mean, he was kind of pleased, you know, and he said, okay, we are trying to do something, but they run out of time and they have to rebuild the car for the race. And so we talked today about a 95, you know, maybe because it might be difficult to stay on the grid until 6. So we'll see, but it's all over on that side. So I just have to you know, to pray and see and hope for the best.
Well, you've got about 2 hours and 23 minutes to wait, and we've talked about the drama, the travails of the Penske team. Believe me, there's as much drama with this small team and a 3-year-old race car right now. This is what Indianapolis is all about, as Frank Freon is on the bubble. And it's going to be interesting to see if that 224.5 will end up making the field of 33. Let's go back to Jerry Punch.
Gary, talk about emotions today. What about an emotional roller coaster for the past 2.5 weeks? That's what Lynn St. James has gone through. She came here at the beginning of the month thinking you had a deal all set, and it went away, and you sat there and waited, and we're going to have a press conference, and suddenly the money, some folks from nearby came in and rescued you.
Yeah, the Whitlock Corporation, David Carmel flew in from Chicago and had seen it in the Chicago Tribune and said, you know, I want to look at this, and then within 3 days said he wanted to be a part of it. And then within a few days we got all the decals and all the deals done, because I really wanted to be in the 95 Lola Cosworth. I knew that that would be what it would take to get in the field, and also the best car to have in the race. So went out for the first time Thursday, got about 4 laps, and then the skies opened up, and I got some good laps in yesterday, and day before yesterday on Friday, qualified yesterday, and now we're taking out a backup car because I'm third, you know, from the bump deal, and I'd like to feel better than I feel right now, so I think we better be prepared just in case.
Let me ask you now, you said you went out yesterday and you ran laps at 228.2 and 228.3, and yet you went out and qualified in the heat, and you accepted a 225, which puts you, as you said, third in the bump list. You question the wisdom of possibly taking that lap?
Well, not necessarily maybe taking that lap, but we did hesitate to think maybe we should have gotten in line then and waited till the end of the day, and I mean, everybody's talking about the weather. It's blue sky, you know, clear today. It was that way all day yesterday. But the track temperature, with the sun beating down on the track, within 15 minutes, it can go down 8 to 10 degrees, the actual track surface, and that really affects the handling of the car. So, you know, we went out right at like 11:15 or 11:20, or maybe it was even 11:45. But you know, when I went out and did my qualifying run, and so the sun's beating right down on it, where once it gets in the afternoon, it shades it, and the track temperature goes down. But you know, I think now that I look at it, not many people went that quick yesterday at the end of the day either. So I think that, you know, that we probably did the right thing. And not only that, the car was ready and I was ready. And I felt much better watching everything else instead of waiting, you know, all day. And now the tension is waiting for this day to be over. And it's going to be pretty exciting between 5 and 6 o'clock around here, I'll tell you.
I guarantee you. You've been out, you say, in Carlos Guerrero's backup car. We saw him pulling the car in on the hook earlier. What happened?
Well, it has a different gearbox than I'm used to, and I shifted from 4th to 5th here, and it's got spring loading on it, and I think what happened was they call it a false neutral, and then the box goes berserk, and like it doesn't know, it won't take any gear, you know, so then it got stuck, you know, it couldn't coast all the way around, and they put me on the hook and brought me in, but as it turned out, everything was okay.
Prediction on the bump speed, got any idea?
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, I think a 225 is going to hold, and I mean, Eliseo is really there at 225.0, and so I'm just hoping that either he holds or it's over after that.
There's a lot of people that are hoping Emerson Fittipaldi qualifies for this race, and Lynn, you're one of them, because they put a release out that right now you're the most mature driver in the field.
So how old are you, Jerry? Tell the world. Go ahead. Come on.
They put out a release saying that Emerson Fittipaldi, if he qualifies,
He promised me he would not. I never thought this would ever happen. He said he would not quit racing as long as I was still racing, because I don't want to be the oldest in the field.
Emerson is 3 months older than Lynn, and she is praying he gets in the field, so she will not be the oldest driver in the 79th Indy 500. Let's go to Derek.
And of course, the man who was the oldest driver in the 500 when he competed is Lynn's boss for the month of May, Dick Simon. Dick, you have 3 cars in the field, Davy Jones still to go, but do you think the cars you have in are solidly in the field?
The only one, Derek, that we feel good about is Carlos Guerrero at 225.831. Lynn Stein at 225.346 we're nervous about, and definitely Aliceo's. We had his backup car out here just about 2 o'clock. We ran 225.6 and 7s at that time. On our watch, I believe officially 225.5. We feel that at 2 o'clock that car running that speed should be worth 227, so if he does get bumped, we do have a backup, Derek. They will roll into line. Lynn, we're working on her backup right now. We just had a problem with it. We're taking it back to fix that and then get back out here and work on that as well. Both those cars are good cars, and hopefully if we don't have a problem with Lynn's, we'll have 2 good backups in case they get bumped. But then, of course, you know how it is here. You got to be at the right place at the right time, and the last 15 minutes, awful easy to be in the wrong place.
Dick, is it worse being a driver here and being under pressure, or being a team owner like yourself and being under pressure?
I'd much rather be here as a driver. It seemed less hectic for me. I was a driver and an owner, and you know, when I got into the car, it was like the owner's worries went away. Unfortunately, when you're just the owner, you don't get the pleasure of driving the car and having that breakaway period from the pressures of the sponsors and the drivers all over you and the crews. And you know, I guess I enjoyed it all, though.
Now, what people don't know is Dick actually took laps early on the opening day. He drove his own car around here. Was there ever a temptation that you might try a comeback yourself?
Derek, you know better than ask that question. Of course there was. In fact, Tom Binford, Chief Stewart, sent one of the guys down and said, hey, Dick, that's a little fast going through 1 and 2. You need to take your refresher. And I had to stop and think, what was I here for, Derek? I was here to take care of our drivers and the sponsors we have. And I didn't have a sponsor for my car. So I got out of the car and been spending the rest of the month, but it was fun.
Let me tell you, if Dick Simon could drive half as fast as he could talk, he'd have no trouble qualifying.
And for the record, Emerson Fittipaldi is 48. We don't know Lynn St. James' age. So there's Teo Fabi. He's been out practicing scrubbing in tires. And when we come back, we'll meet some of the more great people that make the Indy 500 so special. Back live at Indianapolis, Frank Freon, his car, go out and at least try to scrub in some tires, be ready for the race, should he not be bumped out of the field. But you heard a few moments ago, a very nervous individual, as are many people here at the Speedway, including, of course, everybody involved in the Roger Penske effort, and also, to some degree, that of the effort of Stefan Johansson, and much the same problem, and also Brian Herta, who has had his problems here this month of May. Let's get an update on that now.
Well, as you say, Paul, Brian Herta is here today, and boy, it's good to see you. That was a nasty crash that you took on Wednesday. Do you know what happened to cause that?
Well, unfortunately, I really don't. You know, the computer doesn't show anything really bad, wrong happening to the car, and I don't remember any of the accidents, so I'm not able to really clear up any of it myself either.
Now, how are you feeling? I mean, you look fine and everything, but are you still a little dizzy and so on, or are you feeling pretty good?
No, I feel okay. I mean, it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm enjoying myself, you know, watching the end of qualifying, hoping we don't get bumped. But, you know, physically I feel good, but I still have to go through another checkup and make sure that everything's all clear before they'll give me the go-ahead to run on Thursday.
Now, a concussion is a funny thing. I mean, you feel fine, but obviously they have to put you through those checks. How hard is it for you here today, knowing that you have potential of being bumped, and I know how bad you'd like to be out here running?
Well, it's frustrating, obviously. I'd like to be able to be out there and just in case a situation arises, put myself back in the field, but it's not possible, unfortunately. So, you know, I really just appreciate that Mike Groff's joined the team, and he'll fill that role for us, and I know he'll do a great job. So, you know, we feel comfortable with the situation we're in. We think the speed's going to hold, but at the same time, you know, we know we got Mike in there, and you know, he's a gun. He'll do what it takes if we need to.
And what is the final cutoff point for you as far as getting okayed to drive or not?
Well, the plan is to do a final check on Wednesday. You know, we just want to leave things as late as possible. I've been through some checks. Everything's looking good, but you know, we want to make sure everything's right, and I do too, because the speeds are high here, and even though I feel fine, if you know, we don't want to put anybody else at danger, so we'll wait till Wednesday, make sure everything's good. And assuming it all looks good, I'll be out on carburation day Thursday to set the car back up a little bit for myself, and then you know, then we'll hit the race.
We just had a chance to look at that crash while you're answering that question, but the car really did hold up great considering how hard you hit the wall.
Well, it really did. I think the Reynard's built a nice, strong car, and it did its job this year for me anyways. It really held up and protected me, and so, you know, I think that the chassis manufacturers and the rules makers are going in the right direction, and the cars just seem to be getting safer and safer, and that's good news for us.
Brian, it's great to see you here.
Thanks.
So Brian Herta, with some decisions to be made in that team. You know, through the years of racing, driver safety, of course, has been one of the most important areas of concern. Well, Derek Daly takes a look into the history and the future of the IndyCar helmet.
Driver protection is obviously of paramount importance. Now, it's hard to believe that in the early 1900s, this was the fashion statement of drivers, the cloth cap. The development of this became the familiar leather helmet. Now, in fairness, this would only protect you from the wind and nothing else. Of course, the modern era now requires drivers to have this state-of-the-art, energy-absorbing, crushable structure. In the early days of racing, for head protection, some drivers chose to wear aviator caps on backwards. The majority, however, preferred cloth caps, although they offered virtually no protection. While there were some examples of hard hats, it was not until Wilbur Shaw wore one in 1932 that others began to take notice. By 1935, they had become mandatory. The helmet of choice for many years was the English Cromwell, which was made from crushed paper. It did little more than deflect just small stones. The first jet pilot type helmets began to appear in 1953. And in 1968, Dan Gurney raced with what had become the standard headgear, the first full-face helmet. Crashes like that, it is imperative that a driver's head is protected, and in the case of this accident, the helmet did its job. Mark Dismore sustained no head injuries whatsoever. One company who's been a major contributor to the performance, safety, and development of IndyCar helmets is Bell Sports. General Manager Kendall Merrill explains the process of making a helmet.
Well, actually, there are three primary components. There's actually a shell, a liner, and an interior, and of course, there are individual steps for each of those. The shell component is first the fabric that is used, whether it be fiberglass or a composite component, is cut, is then hand laid up in a mold with a resin, cured and removed. That shell, once it comes out of the mold, is then trim routed and drilled and prepped for painting. Finish is applied to the helmet, primarily white. As far as the liner goes, we're one of the only helmet companies worldwide that actually manufactures and molds their own liners. That's done on the premises in Ram Tool, and that liner is molded out of some type of expanded polystyrene product. And of course, then the interior components that go into the helmet are die cut and sewn on premises. And all of those components are put together in a final assembly area and produce a finished helmet.
Delco Electronics, with the help of Bell Sports, have also provided drivers with information by borrowing a concept it has already been using in Pontiac passenger cars, the IQ head-up display. Racing IQ projects information in the driver's forward field of vision. The drivers can now simply look through the helmet visor to see information that includes RPM, engine boost, lap time, fuel, and a low tire pressure warning, all monitored by the driver while he never takes his eyes off the racetrack. Delco Electronics Racing IQ has been in development with Bell Sports and Team Penske over the last 5 months. Alonso Jr. sees potential in Racing IQ.
My dad was here a couple years ago, and he just barely skimmed the wall off turn 4, and I said, "Dad, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, he was looking down at his dash." And so, you know, even the veterans get a little bit too comfortable with stuff like that, and so, you know, with the IQ, he would have never touched it.
The Racing IQ is an extension of Delco Electronics' interest in developing products that make racing competitive and safer.
Part of the future of what to expect in helmets at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and elsewhere. With us is Roberto Guerrero. Roberto, you in practice here, not during the month of May, but in a private test here down in the South End, actually had the wheel of the car come over your helmet. So you certainly believe in these systems and the improvements they're making.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's quite obvious, like without a helmet, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So the helmets really have improved a hell of a lot, and it's great. And every year they keep getting better and better.
Let's talk about pleasant things. A pleasant surprise, really. You are the track record holder here at over 232 miles an hour. Set it back in '92. Did you have any idea that you could be standing here right now, the 4th day of time trials, and the race getting ready to run, and you'd still be the track record holder?
No way. I mean, especially this year, you know, when you know, the Menard cars were running, you know, close to 235. I mean, they could run higher than my record warming up. So, I mean, I said that it would take a miracle for me to keep the record, and I think we got a miracle.
What is the difference? Why are they so much slower now, and why, given the fact that they are a little bit slower, are the speeds picking up again?
It's the weather. It's what makes a huge difference. I mean, I remember, and I'll never forget, when I went out to qualify in '92, it was 5:45. It had rained most of the day, so the track was clean. There wasn't a single drop of wind in the air. The temperature was about 65 degrees, and it was 5:45 p.m. So the temperature, you know, everything was great. And I said it would be really hard to get better conditions than that. And that's what kept it going for a little bit.
Now you are standing here comfortably in shirt sleeves, not to worry about a race car. Are you safely in the field?
Yeah, we believe so. And I really feel for all these guys having to go out in a few minutes and try to qualify. It's just a horrible position to be in. We're lucky that it's been kind of a strange month for us. We've done very little running, and the car is very, very comfortable, and I think we have a good race car.
So Roberto Guerrero, well, he has the opportunity to be a fan today here at Indianapolis. We look for a good run on race day.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Roberto Guerrero. All right, at Indianapolis, we still have a green light for practice, though no practice at the moment, and we'll keep track of that Penske situation. The United States Auto Club stand waiting at the head of the qualifying line where you would present your car for a final inspection before qualification. It still remains empty. There is one car practicing on the circuit now. The temperatures at track surface are high. Probably doesn't do much good to get out there, but Frank Freon at least needs an opportunity to scrub in some tires and make them ready for race day. Almost everyone has, for the most part, completed that process, including the man who will sit on the pole and bring the 11 rows of 3 to the green flag 1 week from today. As he looks ahead, Gary Gerald, what are his thoughts now?
Well, I'll tell you what, this guy is so loose, so easygoing, so happy. I think the grin has just become a permanent part of Scott Brayton here. This has been a terrific month. But here you are down now, the final day of qualifying. You and Team Menard don't have to be the least bit concerned with that. Why are you out here in your driver's suit? What's about to happen?
Well, we're going to bring out the 60 car, which is my primary car. All week long, they rebuilt it. They worked on the car. They went through every little piece of it. So now they'll bring it out. I'll run it around the track a little bit, stand up in it one time, get up, boost, and check everything. And then they'll take it back to the shop, and they'll drop the tray, and they'll look at everything. They'll make sure that we're really ready for carburation day.
So you just get a handful of laps now. That's the idea.
Oh, it'll only be 3.
Only 3?
That's the other. They keep it right down to the timed lap. And if I went farther, I'd be in trouble.
At this point, are you thinking, do you have a feel for what race pace is going to be like and what kind of speeds we're going to see, you know, 5 laps after green on race day a week from today?
Oh, I think that you're going to see 218 to 224, right in that range, depending on the heat of the day. If it's real hot like this, it's going to get slippery quick, and it'll slow down. Traffic's going to be a big concern. If there's a lot of cars that finish this race, the pace will be slower. If a number of cars break in the first 80 laps, then the pace will pick up because there won't be so many cars to contend with when you're lapping.
The reliability factor of the Menard engine now. Have you done enough testing that you're confident that it is, without a doubt, ready for 500 full miles?
Well, I think it's as ready as any engine I've ever came here with. I think that 500 miles at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the biggest lotto you've ever entered. I mean, you just can't say forever for sure, but I would say I think we've got good reliability. I think that it's going to come down to, you know, the race coming to us. I felt lucky all month. I think it could be our day.
It's been a terrific month thus far. We enjoy a couple of minutes of your time, and keep it going.
Thank you.
Scott Brayton.
Hey, all right, come over here. All right.
Yelling for his teammate. There is his number up in position number 1, the pole position. Will take you back a week.
Halfway through this qualification attempt.
This was Brayton's run, of course, a cool day, overcast, and notice that he was not using all of the race course available to him. Nice, smooth run for Scott Brayton. Tremendous power out of that Menard engine. You see the large cowling covering that engine compartment. Unique to these Menard cars, the car is a Lola, but one that they've spent a great deal of time and development on to get the car so that it would accept this engine package successfully. And obviously, they did a spectacular job with it. Scott Brayton works well off the wall. As now taking a look at his fourth and final lap. At this particular point in time, his teammate, Arie Luyendyk, was on the pole. You saw his times to this point. Arie Luyendyk's pole speed was at 231.031 miles an hour. So it was this lap that was going to make the difference for Scott Brayton. And to the approval of the crowd off the fourth and final turn, you can see Dwayne Sweeney in a coat. It was so cool as he takes the checkered flag, qualified for the pole at 231.604 miles an hour, though he had to wait all the way through the line on Sunday before he found out he actually had the pole. People still waiting. People like Stefan Johansson, who is now with Derek Daly.
And Stefan has been part of the Penske problem here because he came here with a 94 Penske, ran consistently faster than the factory teams, but yet you also made the change to another chassis. Why?
Well, we made a decision that, you know, we weren't going to be able to get it up enough. You know, we could do it occasionally, but it was very hard to maintain a consistent speed. What we felt was required to make the race here, you know, so that's why we switched to the Reynard, and you know, we're continuing that program now.
Your early laps in the Reynard were above 226 miles an hour, but when you look at the blue sky and the sunshine, do you worry that maybe when the time comes to get the speed you need, that it may not be there?
I think it'll be there later in the afternoon. You know, yesterday I'd say we would have been comfortably in if we didn't have a problem with the pop-off valve. So hopefully we'll get a clean run to this afternoon, you know, around 5:30 or so, and it should be enough.
Coming from an F1 background, have you ever seen a pressure type situation that you see here at Indianapolis anywhere else in your racing career?
I mean, this is not even close to anything else. It's amazing. It's the full treatment, really.
The full treatment and unique, and he still has to make it into the race.
And a lot of well-wishers here hoping that Stefan Johansson can in fact make it into the race. The yellow light is on here at Indianapolis while they inspect the race course. All the officials out finishing a walk of the straightaway to make sure it's clean and ready to go.
The conditions, which at the moment have kept most of the cars off the racetrack. The track temperature is really crucial here, and at the moment it's dropped 10 degrees. It was high today at 133. It's now at 123 degrees. We might see some quick speeds pretty soon, but you know, we've talked about how the high temperatures take speed away from these cars, but there's one other factor that's made a big difference and caught a few teams by surprise. When you have 2 or 3 cars out of the racetrack circulating, the air above the Indianapolis Motor Speedway actually starts to go in a circular fashion. In other words, if you go out there and run, let's say at 226, and I'm not talking about drafting somebody right behind, I'm talking about just being out there on the track with other cars. You can run a 226 there, then you put it in line, you're down to a 225. That's because the swirling effect of the air actually speeds up the cars. Then you go to qualify, you lose a few miles per hour. Another aspect of conditions these teams are watching very carefully. Let's go down pit road now to Jerry Punch.
And Jan, one of the big stories this month has been the tire situation here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Speeds are up by some 4 miles per hour over the previous field. I'm with Al Spire, the director of motorsports for Firestone Tires. Now, you guys have to be ecstatic. You came here with 13 cars, and you've got 9 in the field already, and that's got to bring a big smile to the folks at Firestone.
Oh, we're just thrilled with this coming back here, and Indianapolis means so much to us, and to have our tires performing so well. As you say, 9 cars in the field already. We hope to get a few more in this afternoon, and it couldn't be going better for us.
I hate to be the harbinger of bad news, but the rumors now beginning to circulate in the garage area, Al, is that the tire you have here qualifies well, because some of the guys said they pick up 1.5 miles on the Firestone, but what about the reliability of race days? People are saying you might have too soft a right rear.
Well, we're very, very confident in all of our tires here. I think that's probably wishful thinking on our competitors' part, because if you actually look at the qualifying times for all our cars, they actually speed up as they go through the run. And we've talked to our engineers who've done just a fantastic job on all our tires here, and we are extremely confident for race day no matter what the conditions are. We've made a lot of long runs. Scott Pruitt went over a pit stop distance on a set of tires the other day, and pretty full fuel load near the end, around 226 miles an hour. So we're very confident.
So your guy on the front row, Scott Goodyear, doesn't need to worry at all.
No, Scott Goodyear, you know, out of the whole IndyCar series, you know, the Menards run here and they've done a great job, but out of all the Indy cars that run the whole circuit, Scott Goodyear's really got the pole for those cars, and he is not concerned about his tires at all for race day.
That's Al Spire with Firestone. What about another driver on the Firestones? Had a pretty good qualifying run. I'm with Stan Fox. And Stan, you blitzed out some great laps on the first weekend of qualifying on the new Firestones.
Well, we were very fortunate. We got out Saturday. The conditions weren't the best. It was a little windy, a little damp, but my car ran real well. We put 4 good laps together and qualified real solid. And that's sort of the key here, is to get in early, get that, you know, if you can get in the first day, even if the speeds aren't as good, take the speed. If you can lock yourself in the field, that'll put you towards the front of the race on race day.
Talk about a team player. Now, you've been out here now for the past couple, 3 days trying to help the rookie driver, your teammate Davey Hamilton, get in the field after they acquired a backup car. What is the story now? Where is he as far as the speed category?
Well, I think people are going to be surprised. Davey ran a 224 the last lap he ran today. It was in the heat. We've gone in. Ronnie Dawes has made some changes on the car, and come time to qualify, Davey's a racer. You know, he's an American-born, stand-on-the-gas, super modified driver. And I told these guys, when that green goes out, Davey's going to run a hard run laps. And I'm looking for 227s qualifying.
227, that's a big number. Talking about Stan Fox, and they're going to reopen the track here for qualifications and practice. That's why you see some of the cars behind us getting ready to go out. That is Mike Groff in the Chip Ganassi car. He will go, as was Davey Hamilton, as they will head down pit road, guys, for more practice here on the final day of qualifying.
What a great story it is, too, that after 25 years, Firestone is back, and that means some competition for Goodyear. Derek Daly takes a look back to the past tire war and into the current friendly competition.
Before World War I, there was quite a bit of friendly competition among several tire companies, with as many as 7 or 8 brands being represented. But from 1930 through 1960, there was no tire company at Indianapolis other than Firestone. The last tire company to leave in 1929 was the first to return in 1961, English Dunlops on Jack Brabham's rear-engine Cooper. In '63, Goodyear casually threw its hat in the ring by showing up for a couple of days' practice and trying out some NASCAR stock car tires on A.J. Foyt's Indy car. In '64, Goodyear jumped in with both feet and signed up several prominent drivers and teams. During practice, however, the engineers decided that further development and testing was needed, and so just before first day's qualifications, Goodyear withdrew, releasing all of its contracted teams to run on Firestones. In '65, Goodyear returned, and this time they stayed for the duration. 12 cars qualified, including that of A.J. Foyt, who won the pole with a new track record. Costs quickly escalated, and it became a war. Not only did both companies accelerate their testing programs, but the retainers paid to teams and drivers became astronomical. It couldn't last for long, and it didn't. Firestone pulled back considerably, and in 1968 they began to concentrate only on selected teams. By '72, most of its concentration was on the Vels Parnelli Jones racing team, with drivers Joe Leonard, Mario Andretti, and Al Unser. With Al under contract to Firestone and his brother Bobby with Goodyear, the Unser family found a clever way to show their support. At the end of the '74 season, Firestone announced it was withdrawn completely, and Goodyear was left standing alone. The era of the tire wars was over for the time being. 1995, Firestone is back. But unlike before, this is not a tire war.
It's an intense rivalry. It's like 2 big sporting franchises going at it tooth and nail, trying very hard to win, but it's a competition. Yeah, it's not a war.
It's got a competition between two big corporations, and it's a technical competition. It's going to be very interesting.
Still, competition, especially at Indy, isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's the foundation upon which auto racing, and in fact all business for that matter, is built.
The reason Goodyear got into racing was to win Indianapolis. And when Firestone withdrew 20 years ago, it kind of left a void for us.
it's kind of a hollow victory if you just win and you're the only tire there. So if you have two companies competing, it's much stronger to beat somebody and much stronger to beat a very valid competitor. You know, for Firestone to go up against the likes of Goodyear and be successful on the track is extremely rewarding to us.
The number one thing we've been worried about is keeping the costs down for the competitors, keeping the speeds down and that sort of thing.
Keeping the costs down is important. That's what drove Firestone out of IndyCar racing 20 years ago. Nevertheless, the importance of winning the Indy 500, the biggest auto race in the world, is not being overlooked.
It's important for Goodyear to win Indianapolis.
Oh, Indy is so important, far more important than any other individual race. Firestone has all the history and heritage at Indy, and to us it stands out as the preeminent, most important race of our entire season.
I'll take Goodyear's chances against competition anytime.
Dare to dream about a win. I couldn't even describe in words what a win would mean to us.
The Firestone Goodyear story. Here at the Speedway, Scott Sharp be driving for A.J. Foyt. We'll be talking with another A.J. Foyt driver in just a moment. Those yet to qualify, there's some very, very big names on the list. They include Allinger Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi. There's the list of drivers who have not yet qualified and who hope to in some way cram that in before the end of the day here at Indianapolis.
We are back live in Indianapolis on Bubble Day, and 2 years ago, one of the biggest names in IndyCar racing, Bobby Rahal, was knocked out of the field by this man here, Eddie Cheever. Eddie, that felt good, but it must feel even better to have your qualifying speed well in the field and on the first weekend.
I mean, qualifying here at Indy is difficult in the best of circumstances, and everything is nice and calm when you're having your first run at it. Doing it like this on the last hour, an hour and a half left, is very difficult, especially if you don't have the speed.
When you come here with somebody like A.J. Foyt, who has so much experience, does he have tricks or techniques that he can teach you that makes you go faster, more comfortably around here?
Well, I think he has a method of working that actually assists the driver in getting comfortable. What he works a lot on is comfort. He tries to make you comfortable in the corners so the speed comes natural. He never ever once since I've driven for him, he said, okay, now it's time for you to go and stand on the gas, because that really is irrelevant around here. If the car's not working, you can't make it do it.
Can you believe that some of the biggest racing names in the world are struggling just to make this race as we speak?
I find it hard to believe. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the speeds and saying, how could Penske's be so far out of the picture? They really aren't even close. With their race cars, they would not have made it, so they've gone to alternate machines, and we're down to the last, we have an hour and 40 minutes left. Their engineers are racking their brains out, and that's probably one of the best teams in motor racing. This place here is relentless. Relentless. If you're not in good shape, there's nothing you can do.
Now, are you keeping a close eye on what Scott Sharp does in your backup car?
Scott's gotten a lot of miles in the last 2 days. I think he has a very good chance of getting in, but he's against some very, very tough competition. He has Stefan Johansson, who's running well. He has the two Penskers are not quite up to speed, but we all are expecting a miracle to happen, so you can't count them out. And there are many other drivers that have been going fast this morning. Davy Jones is up there, so it's not going to be easy for him. But I think if he can pass. If he can pass this tough test today, his skin has gotten a lot thicker.
And it is a tough test, and I believe he is down the pit lane with our Jan Beekes.
That's right. Here he is, Scott Sharp, and your teammate was just talking about you, saying this is really the pressure time. We'll have to see how it goes. But yesterday you had a pop-off problem. Is that right?
Well, we've been having a sort of a leaky wastegate for which is a part of the whole turbo system, and it would run real well for a couple laps, and then all of a sudden it would blow off, and we'd lose 2 or 3 miles an hour and a bunch of horsepower. So that's what happened in both of our attempts yesterday. And it's pretty frustrating because you run real well, and then all of a sudden you're slow and there's nothing you can really do about it. AJ's given me a great opportunity, and the car's working really well. I mean, I was practically flat the whole way around yesterday, but when you don't have the horsepower, you can't get it done. But I think the guys, they've been working hard. We went out about an hour ago and we solved our problems, and we're going to go out one more time and make sure right now.
So what is it now? Is this a simulated run for you, qualifying run, or you still have quite a bit of fuel in there?
Not quite simulated, but pretty close to seeing where we're at.
How soon might we see you in line?
That's up to AJ. I don't want to make any speculation. He makes the call on that.
Okay, I know you're anxious to get out there. We'll have to see how she turns. Thanks.
Right, thank you.
You like that great little smile and hesitation on Scott Sharp? Believe me, everything there is very definitely up to AJ. When cars out and practicing now, though we're still not seeing any of those spectacular speeds that will be necessary to qualify into this 500 field. As we watch Emerson Fittipaldi practicing in one of the Lolas that they intend to qualify at the end of the day. You know, we talk about a qualifying engine, which they certainly use here at Indianapolis. There used to be a qualifying tire, though that's not real smart anymore since you have to start on the tire you qualify on. So the idea of putting on some gumbo rubbers and going out there and trying to go fast doesn't work. But try this. How about a qualifying helmet? Now, what's different about this helmet, you say? Well, Bill Simpson has come up with this particular one. You know, normally the helmet has a post here and a hinge, and the post is for the tearaways. And there, in other words, there are a number of different bumps aerodynamically in the helmet. So what they've done is simply taken all those bumps away and sealed the visor in. Now, originally, it was submitted with the visor sealed on solidly, and the medical people, Dr. Henry Bach here at the Speedway, took a look at that, and they weren't entirely comfortable with the idea that this face shield was totally sealed. So what they did was they put on some little Zeus fittings, which come off very quickly, so that the medical team can just pop it open and say to the driver, "Are you okay?" and take a look in his eyes and be able to hear him. But they say that there may be as much as 3/4 of a mile an hour in this particular change in the helmet. That's been documented on the computer. I'm not so sure we've seen it yet, Derek, when we watch it run on the track itself, but still it's wonderfully innovative by Bill Simpson.
It really is, and over 75% of the field actually wears clothing from Bill Simpson's company also. And there's a fascinating story how Nomex became invented, because Pete Conrad, astronaut Pete Conrad, in 1967 is a friend of Bill Simpson's. He said, "We just came across a new material called Nomex. You ought to come and see it." Bill Simpson did. The following year, every Goodyear contracted driver here at the Speedway was wearing Nomex fireproof material, and it revolutionized safety equipment as we know it.
Pete Conrad, by the way, a massive race fan. Now, consider this, 78 years of the Indy 500, only 16 times has the defending champion not raced in the following year's race. And then the only times that they haven't have been when they have elected not to qualify in the ensuing year. Fabulous statistic, and one that may in fact be broken. Let's go down the pits, meet some former Penske drivers, beginning with Gary Gerald.
Paul, we've gone back into Gasoline Alley, and one of the men who's been busy on the racetrack both yesterday and today is Paul Tracy, who we think is safely qualified. You're in the 6th row, Paul, but yet you're trying to cover all bases, and I guess that's the genesis or the reason you've been on the track so much the last couple of days.
Well, we just don't want to get caught out with the Kmart Budweiser car. We know we're quick enough to qualify, and but I want to hold my track position. If we do get bumped, you know, I know we're ready to run, but I want to wait as long as I can so I don't have to start from the back of the field.
How frustrating is it to find all this speed the last couple of days? You've been consistently among the quickest, very quietly, running close to 229 miles per hour, when in fact, when you did qualify, it was a struggle to reach 226.
Well, it was frustrating. You know, we made a small change on the car, and it's just how strange this month has been. You know, you feel, you know, you got the car close and you make one small change and it goes either one way or the other, and it really slowed us down. And that's how sensitive the cars have been. If they're right, the cars are quick, and if you're just a hair off with the setup, I mean, the car is just not good at all. So I think that's the thing that Penske's been struggling. They've just been a touch off, and they just can't get it up to speed.
Well, I know that as a former Penske driver, you've been following that story very closely.
Well, I have. You know, it's very frustrating for me to watch them, because I see all the pain on the mechanics' faces and the pain on the drivers' faces. You know, they're trying everything they can do, but again, it's so sensitive right now. The cars are so good and so fast that, you know, one tiny change just throws it right out of whack.
Well, Paul Tracy has been consistently fast. We think you're safely in the field. Thanks for spending a couple of minutes with us.
Thanks for giving me the confidence. I hope we're safely in the field.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, there are 3 former Indianapolis 500 winners in the field for the 79th running, and you're looking at one of those, Danny Sullivan, inside of row 7. And Danny, yet you are inside row 7, but you're out here practicing the T car. Why?
Well, we're 5th on the bubble, if you like to look at it that way, because the speed on that Saturday was a little bit slower. So we want to just be safe, and we got it out here just to get it up to speed to make sure that if something happens, all these guys go fast at 5 to 6. We need to be in line and ready to go to try to requalify our second car.
Now, some of the drivers have come by. Eddie Cheever came by and said, you're not going to get bumped. You're not going to get bumped. It's easy for them to say that, right, as they walk by?
Well, it's easy to say, and we can feel pretty confident, which I don't right at the moment. I've got a lot of butterflies. But we'd be really silly if we didn't prepare ourselves and weren't ready to go in case all of a sudden it got a little cooler and temperature dropped and all of a sudden everybody started turning in fast times. We'd be kind of silly if we were over on the golf course.
Well, it got shadowy a minute ago, and it got cool, and everyone began to scramble and panic, but the blimp had just gone in front of the sun, so it cleared back out a minute. Let me ask you this. You're 5th on the bump list, and not that concerned, I shouldn't think, but what if you were Al Unser Jr.? You've driven for Roger Penske. They have got to be just tearing their stomach up thinking about what could happen.
Well, of course, they've done everything humanly possible that they can do. The unfortunate part for Al, he's got one run. He's got to take whatever he comes up with. But he and Penske are true champions, and I'm sure they've got a lot of reserves in there, and they're going to dig down real deep. And I think we're going to see a good qualifying run.
How much can the driver do here? Derek Daly said, you know, we've talked to other drivers. I mean, it's so much car, so much horsepower. Can you make a difference? Can you make it up?
Well, you can make a slight difference maybe with a lot of experience over an inexperienced guy. But really the car and the motor and the tires, if you get a little push and you're going toward the wall, you got to roll out of it. You roll out of the throttle, you just lost 3-4 miles an hour. And there's nothing you can do about that. I don't care who you are.
Unbelievable that this is the final day, and what was mostly the front row a year ago could be the back row here in 95.
Well, the back row are maybe not even in the show, and I think it just goes to show what that horsepower was doing for them last year. They obviously didn't have as good a car as they thought they had. I think it must be really good when you add a lot of downforce in it, but when you trim it out in Speedway, it obviously doesn't work that good.
Danny, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Danny Sullivan getting ready to go back out. The Pac West people patiently waiting, and they will put Danny in the car here, and he will try to get the T car up over 225. And Paul, just behind Sullivan, the Penske people are scurrying and trying to run 2-lap runs with Fittipaldi and now Unser Jr. to possibly get prepared for a qualifying effort.
So practice continues, though there is no tactical move in any of the practice here today. None of the key players really moving up to speed, nor are they expected to. Maybe in about an hour. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, practice continues, anticipating qualifying, perhaps in about an hour, perhaps sooner. You know, normally when this man is interviewed at the Speedway, Tom Binford, the chief steward, the question is, what about the weather? And it's usually when it's raining, Tom. At least we have the pleasure now of talking to you in the sunlight. And what we'd like to talk about is you're bringing to a close a spectacular career as the longest reigning chief steward ever in the history of the 500. Tom came in to action here in 1974. There were a lot of difficulties with the way the race was being run at that time, and Tom was the solution to it all. Tom, over that span of time, are there some spectacular memories that are very important to you?
Well, there are many spectacular memories. I think the memories, though, that really hearten you are the people and the things that we've done together to do this. I think probably what heartened me the most was the return of the spirit. And you were here, you know, after that 1974 race, when that sunshine shone the whole time. We had 70 laps of green time at the start, and popular winner, and no accidents. Everything we were trying to do but didn't have time to do happened almost by magic. But it gave everybody spirits a boost, and I think from then on, the next 3 or 4 years, yeah, we were able to do some things. But that first year was sheer luck, and I thank the Lord.
When we talk about, as we have been this entire day, the pressure on somebody like the Penske team, what about the pressure on the chief steward of the race? You have a lot of agendas at play here and a lot of concerns.
There are, and there's so many hypothetical questions that arise in your own mind about how you would handle this if this happened and that happened. And there are the pressure to get in this race, and you well know, getting into this race is more pressure than running it. They'll tell you, I mean, to get in is what they sacrifice everything for. And this time, the afternoon, when everybody's having so much difficulty, the time when even the most honest mechanic will cheat if he can get away with it. So we have to, while this is going on, we have to be just more alert and, well, and at the same time planning for the future. But it's fun. You can tell by my voice. It's exciting. I don't want to leave it. I'd love to stay here for 22 years, but that isn't the way human beings are made.
You know, to show you how far ahead he thinks, he asked me before we came on, now, you and Derek aren't going to sneak down there and interview any of those drivers when they're getting ready to go out, because we don't want to lose 1 second of time, and that's critical at the end of the day today.
It's very critical to the team that's sitting up there, and a gun goes off. Yes.
So now that the chief steward's career comes to an end, what is it? Is it going to be some time up in the grandstand and just enjoy the race? Or I can't believe you're going to walk away from racing.
No, I'm not. The Indy Racing League has asked me to serve in a job they call a commissioner, which is, as I understand it, be mostly consultative or maybe deciding protest issues. That will keep me close to it. I'll be out here, but I won't be on the line. And Keith Ward will be in charge. If I have to go back to home, I will do that to keep him from getting undercut in any way.
And you'll be out from under the pressure.
I'll be out from under some of the pressure, yeah.
Tom Benford, a great civic leader here in Indianapolis, a great business leader, helped found United States Auto Club, and of course has been the chief steward of the Indianapolis 500. We thank him for his great times here. The NHL playoff continues on ESPN as defending Stanley Cup champions, the New York Rangers, travel to Philadelphia to take on Eric Lindros and the Flyers. Live coverage comes your way tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern right here on ESPN. Now, what we want to do is get as many commercials out of the way as we can, so when they are ready to qualify, we have plenty of time to do it. But pay close attention. These are good people.
Hi, I'm Bob.
And you can see that shadow, you're looking south and east. That's the shadow of the main grandstand, the paddock grandstand that is beginning now to move across the track as the sun starts down. And of course, as it begins to move across there, already covering most of the racing portion of the track, the temperature will drop very quickly. Cars are now heading out more and more to practice. And Derek, now we're starting to see some speed.
That's right. Earlier than we anticipated. Let's go backwards from the top 10 because virtually the top 10 is full of non-qualified cars. Mike Groff is almost 225 miles an hour. Johansson is 9th fastest for the day at 225.0. Emerson 226.0 in the Lola. They've gone back to Gasoline Alley to get that prepared and put the right amount of fuel into it. Carlos Guerrero, who's not a factor because he's already qualified, but Salazar has taken another one of Dick Simon's spare cars out. It's a 94 Lola, and he surprised everybody by doing 226 miles an hour just in case he gets bumped out. 5th fastest for the day is Scott Sharp, Eddie Cheever's teammate. We saw him earlier in A.J. Foyt's car, 226.5, and Davy Jones, another non-qualifier, also 226.6. Now, if Gilles de Ferran gets bumped out, he has a spare car that he has up to 227.9. So the speed is there to fill the field and to begin to bump cars out that are already in.
And the car you're watching is liveried for Carlos Guerrero. It's Lynn St. James in the cockpit. You heard a little while ago that she had mentioned she's a little bit concerned, so they're going to make sure they have cars ready. Let's go back to Gary Gerald.
A lot of activity on this pit road. Paul Tracy going back out. We just heard from him a few laps ago. We saw Scott Sharp just roll by with sticker tires. Ari Lyondike, your work for the day, I understand, is now complete.
Yes, we ran some full tank running today, and at least I got a feel for that. And they prepared my race car, and we ran that a few laps just to check everything, and we're ready for carburation day, and then we'll be ready for the race.
Tell us about starting in the middle of the front row. You have consistently been among the fast qualifiers in recent years at Indianapolis, and of course as a former winner. Is there a preferred spot to start this race in the front row?
I would say the outside spot is the best. When I had the outside spot in 1990, I had a little bit of a problem with the gears, but so I couldn't take advantage of it. But usually the guy on the outside has a better shot going into the first turn because he's really lined up already on the right-hand side of the track to take the turn and to take the nice line. So the guy in the middle seems to get pinched off quite a bit. by the two on his outside. So maybe I'll have to find a little bit of a solution to that.
Yesterday, you told us that in your T car, the backup car, you were having some difficulties relating to the operation of the engine that related to fuel. Any of those problems today in your primary car in the final shakedown run?
Well, we spoke yesterday about the wiring loop, which the team did find and fix that car, the backup car, and Buddy Lazier been running that. And the fuel pump seems to be holding up pretty good. So the only problem we have is with the pop-off valve, and a lot of teams have problems with that. The pop-off valve is a real headache for a lot of teams here.
Now, you were telling us earlier that when you lose that valve, there is a significant drop of horsepower, which we know, but you also lose a lot of speed. Could that be critical from a safety standpoint if you're in a lot of traffic?
Well, I think so. The speed drops just like 10 to 15, maybe 20 miles an hour, because what you have to do to get the valve shut, you really have to come out of the throttle. You have to let off to the gas, turn the knob down, and hope it closes, and then get back on. Of course, when somebody's behind you, you will not do that. But the valve, when it drops the boost, because the valve opens, it can drop the speed to like 10 miles an hour, and the guy behind you could get caught out. So it's pretty tricky as well. It could be a safety issue. It could become a safety issue.
Appreciate again some of your time. Wish you well on race day a week from now.
I got to do something, you know that. I got to say hi to my two twin boys.
They get excited when they see Dad on TV.
To Luca and Alec. Hi, and to Maida.
All right. That's Ari Lyondike.
And the other kid.
Ari Lyondike, who will start the race 1 week from today. In fact, this time a week from today, we should know who the champion is. But Ari will be starting in the center of the front row. Look at the difference in the 30 cars. That's what we have right now. Actually, 31 cars qualified in the field. Up almost 4 miles an hour in average speed for the field. And 2 positions remain. 32 and 33, the last 2 positions in the 11th row, and then based on the times as of right now, and this could change in these final 2 qualifiers, Frank Freon is the slowest car in the field at 224.432 miles an hour. So at Indianapolis, practice continues underway, and you can feel the tension begin to build down at the tech area where the cars will present themselves to qualify. When will they do it?
For Jimmy Vasser, who's solidly in the field, but right now your job is to help Mike Groff get in.
Well, Mike's doing a good job on his own. He's got the help of the full Target Chip Ganassi team. I'm just trying to, you know, he hasn't had but 2 days in the car, so I'm trying to lend a little knowledge of what I have about the car and the track conditions to him to help him out.
Now, what was the last thing he said? How is the car working for him? I see they're putting new tires on right now. We're getting down to crunch time.
Well, they're just starting to fine-tune the car. As you know, the track is very temperamental to the heat and the conditions, and it's cooling off right now. It's got a little bit of an understeer for them, but they're going to make a couple final adjustments and then perhaps take a shot at qualifying.
We know Chip has a tendency to put his cars in line early, so maybe we'll see him making the first attempt. Are you glad you're not out there right now with a chance of being bumped?
Well, yeah, I was in this position in 1992 when I was a rookie, and I actually got bumped and had to bump myself right back in the show. So I know what it's about, and this is Indy. You know, the last day, you got the 2 Penske cars trying to get in. You know, I'm just real happy to be in, but you know, they're working with Mike in the Target Scotch car. Brian, I think, is in real solid with his time. But, you know, they made a commitment to try to get Mike in the show, too, so we'll see what happens.
Well, Jimmy Vasser gave us the tip. It looks like Mike Groff might be ready soon, guys.
All right, we'll keep an eye on Mike Groff as well. The Penske car has just rolled past here. Looks like they're getting ready for some final testing. We're going to run through the grid one more time for you, kind of set the stage here for what is about to happen. The front row, Brayton, Lyondike, Goodyear.
Row 2, Michael Andretti, Jacques Villeneuve, and Maurizio Gugelmin.
All first day qualifiers. The third row, Robbie Gordon, Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser, whom you just met.
Row 4, more Firestone tires, Matt Schuster, Stan Fox, and Ribeiro.
The 5th of the 11 rows, Roberto Guerrero still holds the track record. Foyt driver Eddie Cheever and Teo Fabi.
Row 6, Paul Tracy. He has another car, but he doesn't think he'll need to use it. Sam Pedri, who just did the 9th fastest time of the day, and Brian Herta.
In the 7th row is Danny Sullivan, Jill DeFerrin, and Hideshi Matsuda. That completes the first day qualifiers.
Then we move to day 2. Bobby Rahal, whose spare car is now being used by Emerson. Raul Bozel has Unser in his spare car, and Buddy Lazier.
In the 9th row, Eliseo Salazar, who is concerned about that speed at 225 flat. Adrian Fernandez and Eric Bachelard.
Row 10, Christian Fittipaldi, Lynn St. James, who was spectacular and hit the wall, in fact, on her qualifying run. And then the slowest man who's on the bubble is Frank Freon.
And one qualifier today, so he lines up behind everybody else, despite the fact he's a little bit faster. Carlos Guerrero at 225.831 miles an hour. A rookie here. They're all aiming at that Borg Warner trophy. Beautiful Corvette pace car, which will in 1 week lead the field toward the green flag, the 11 rows of 3 at the Indy 500. We're back now right here at the area where, when they're ready to present, they'll pull those cars forward. Johnny Rutherford, 3-time champion of the Indy 500. You've sat here many a time, but can you even conceive of the pressure that Fittipaldi and Little Al are under right now?
Well, to a degree, I guess. I never was in that position, being the winner previous year and coming back like that, but what a pressure it must be, because they are the 1 and 2 in the points, the champions. The cars just haven't done the job.
Now, you've had some joys here, being crowned as the champion 3 times, but you've also stood in that position where you ran the risk of getting bumped out of the field.
Yes, that's the part I don't miss about retirement or not being here. I would like to be driving, but that's, you know, things happen. I won here in '76 and finished 33rd in '77, so there are times like that, and it builds character.
One thing about this place, it can be very humbling. Now, without the driving anymore, what's John Rutherford doing now? There's still adventure in your life, I hear.
Well, yes, to a degree. I'm driving the pace car at all the rest of the races, so it keeps me involved with racing that I love so much, and it's the opportunity to be with the guys and to see this sort of drama.
And then I see your name on the side of airplanes, too.
Yes, I'm with Commander Aircraft out of Oklahoma City. Their spokesman. Have a beautiful Commander 114B that I fly, and I'm enjoying that a lot.
And by the way, he's a very skilled aerobatic pilot. Was that enough of a mention to get me one of those airplanes?
Well, we'll have to see.
Okay. Johnny Rutherford, 3-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. Now, Derek, what about the speeds we've seen today in practice?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, as the clouds begin to come over and the sun goes down, we take a look at the top 10 speeds of the day. Now, Paul Tracy set that time very early this morning. Teo Fabi did his time just after 4 o'clock. And then you move to some of the interest. Gilles de Ferran, who has the speed to get back in the field if he's bumped out. But look at Scott Sharp. He is the fastest man on the racetrack at the moment, so the brief glimpse we saw of the tow-in earlier, hopefully that's just for fuel. Davy Jones, non-qualified car, 226.6. That's one of Dick Simon's cars. He already has 3 in the field. Then Salazar, here's another surprise, above 226 in a 94 car. He needs that for insurance if he's bumped out. Carlos Guerrero, this is just a run to see the car's okay because he's already safely in the field. And then there's Emerson. They brought him back to Gasoline Alley because they think he's fast enough. They put new tires on it. Perhaps he will be in line very soon to see can he qualify. Zampedri running his race car all the way up to 225. And Stefan Johansson, who I don't think has enough speed yet. He'll need to wait for the sun to go down a little bit more before he can do a legitimate attempt at qualifying. Now, the man who has led Goodyear to so much success over the years is just down the pit lane, and he'll tell you it's not a tire war, but he is keeping a very close eye on Firestone. Of course, he's with Jerry and he's Leo Mel of Goodyear.
Thanks, Derek. Indeed, he is. And it's not a war yet, but they have drawn the battle lines. He's the general manager, Goodyear Racing Worldwide, Leo Mel. And Leo, of the 31 cars in the field, Goodyear has 22 of the 31, I should say. And you guys have withstood the Firestone assault pretty well.
Well, all our teams are quite happy. You know, they're all getting ready to go qualify now. Some of them have had a hard time, but they got a lot of confidence in our tire, and we're pretty pleased.
You know, we saw what was happening with the Penske teams. They've been running 2-lap runs and coming in and doing nothing but having the Goodyear engineers check their cars. What are they trying to accomplish?
Well, the stagger at Indianapolis is very, very critical. Several hundredths of an inch can make a big difference in the temperature. So they're making sure they got the right setup for this last try.
This is not that we've documented, this is not really a tire war, but it's been more of a friendly competition, although you sit and laugh and joke. We had Al Spire on earlier, but there's a lot of seriousness when it comes to race day here at Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah, we're very serious about winning this race, and our teams the teams are really confident. We stayed with them. You know, we've been with these guys for 20 years through ups and downs. We've had a good record so far. You know, we've won all the races and all the poles, and we've led every lap. So we're looking forward to the race.
Thoughts on race day? You've come, obviously the speeds are up, and a lot of that this year has to do with the new tires that both Goodyear and Firestone have brought here.
I think what will happen on race day is that we will have the final ultimate test, which you have to do in this business, to find out whose tire really will be the fastest tire for a long period of time, and we won't find that out till race day.
Well, the word is they've got 3 Goodyears and a Firestone on the front row, so you got them outnumbered right now in the field, but you feel confident on race day your tire will hold up.
Well, that one Goodyear I'm not rooting for, but we're very confident. We ran 27.5 this afternoon with Teo Fabi in the heat of the day, and that's a good sign.
That is Leo Mel. He's the man that turns the wheels at Goodyear, worldwide motorsports director for Goodyear Tires. Pretty confident their efforts are going to pay off once again here at Indianapolis. Guys?
All right, we may see our first car getting ready to qualify. Gary Gerald is there with A.J. Foyt.
AJ, you're the one who's forming the line right now, so tell us what the plan is and how satisfied are you of what's transpired here in the last few minutes?
Well, we made some changes, and he ran good. He's pumped up, and it's a last shot, so we got to take whatever we get, and I think it's time to go. And, you know, when you're working with a boy that's young like this, he's a fine driver, but you got to go when he's ready, and I think he's ready.
What are you going to accept, AJ?
I'll take 25.5. We just run over 27. I'm just going to tell him try to get 25.5, 26, 4 good laps, and that'll be good.
Let the suspense begin. A.J. Foyt, the 4-time champion, now goes back to his team.
So speaking of the suspense beginning, as soon as they saw it, Richard Buck, the chief mechanic for Al Unser Jr., they've just sprinted for the garage area, because once A.J. did this, it signals a time to move for the line, and nobody wants to be left standing out when the gun goes off at 6 o'clock local time. So a little break with tradition, but boy, if anybody knows how to play this game at Indianapolis, it is certainly A.J. Foyt. And that tells the story, the Penske problems at Indianapolis. And by the way, they continue. There is Al Unser Jr.'s car. It just died as it was heading out of the pit area. That is why Richard Buck and the rest of the crew were running down there. And the indication is some electrical problems that have plagued them, in fact, throughout the day.
And just look at that last lap speed, 222 miles an hour. Nowhere near the speed he needs to qualify. And Al Unser Jr., the defending champion, does not like to have to suddenly get brave. He's a man who likes to work with the car, get the car to have the speed, and then he will take it to its limit. But he will not delve into the unknown, particularly at a place like Indianapolis that is so potentially dangerous when the car does not just feel right. So if the lack of speed in all these cars was not enough to stomach, now suddenly the car won't even go on one lap.
So here, where they say normally desperate men do desperate things, professional race drivers are very calculated.
Al Unser Jr. has, on a consistent basis, displayed a discipline most unlike other racing drivers, because he's never known to have that dashing, flamboyant style in practice or qualifying. He always thinks about the race.
Let's go up.
He's not even in this race, so he may have to dig a bit deeper than normal.
Let's go up to the pits. Jan Beekes.
Well, speaking about not being in the race, unfortunately, Mike Groff, a heartbreaker for you. I hear the engine just let go.
Yeah, it did. We just went out. We put some new tires on. We just run a 25 flat, 225 flat. Went back out, and new tires were ready to go, and tie went on before the line formed, and the engine just let go on the back straight going out of the pits.
Obviously, you're looking forward to possibly being the 3rd target car out there. What do you now? Is it just, I mean, I don't know how you can even describe what it's like being here just within an hour of having a chance to get in, then this happens.
It's extremely disappointing, but I must say, working with the Chip Ganassi team, actually I just started yesterday with them and then a little bit today, just working with all the guys. They did a great job. They can't really control anything over the engine. It just kind of happened, and we'll be back next year. This place isn't going anywhere.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
You can hear the disappointment in Mike Groff's voice. He was here last November as part of the Honda test program, doing laps above 230 miles an hour. And he looks at the Honda program now on the front row of the grid, and he is not part of it. Jerry Punch?
Well, the drama continuing to build, Derek, up here as Team Penske gets in line. We might mention that little Al Unser Jr. is about 10th in line, maybe 9th or 10th back here. But the concern is not where he is in line. The concern is what happened a moment ago on the racetrack. He went back out to run a couple of laps. He ran a lap at 2:22, and apparently the car shut off. They have brought the car back in. Everyone began to push toward the line. They had no choice but to put the car in line. They had taken the rear engine cowl off, and now the Penske engineers and the Mercedes engineers are working in the electronics area. They have changed a couple of the electronic boxes as they are working to try to decipher what exactly may have been the problem for this car having shut off a moment ago. They wait anxiously, and Al Unser Jr. has gone back to talk to some of the Penske people. Meanwhile, in front of him, about 3 or 4 cars up, is Emerson Fittipaldi. Now, Emerson went out a moment ago and clicked off a lap at 2:26.5. So I talked to Rick Reineman. They feel fairly comfortable that that can be duplicated, if not improved upon, momentarily when qualifying begins.
Look at that fact. Fittipaldi, Unser Jr. accounting for 9 last 11 wins here. And Penske cars accounting for that number. And the chance is that they may not be in this field. Unbelievable.
We remember 2 years ago when we began to document Bobby Rahal's problems. I mean, it's hard to believe as Shelley watches here. She has no control of the situation. In fact, Al Jr. sometimes has no control of the situation. But it's hard to believe we're documenting the possibility of the reigning champion and past winner and 2 of the best drivers in the world maybe not making it into the biggest racing event in the world.
Cheer just went up from the Tower Terrace grandstand here because Scott Sharp's car is being pushed further down the tech line, ready to qualify. Into the cockpit of A.J. Foyt's car. Track temperature at 115 degrees now on the front stretch and dropping quickly. This may have been a good judgment by A.J. We're about to find out.
We're about to find out. He has brand new tires on that car. Now, we heard Leo Mel say earlier that these cars are badly affected by stagger changes sometimes. Stagger, of course, means the outside tire is staggered. It's bigger than the inside one. They have a solid rear axle driving these cars, so obviously the outside wheel has further to go around the corner. Now, the problem with using brand new tires is the grip level is normally higher, but sometimes the stagger does not come up to the level that you expect. 1/100th of an inch different stagger can make a difference between faster or slower. That's the risk Foyt runs. However, if the tires work well, he'll be faster.
He's received his final instructions. When we come back, will he qualify? Scott Sharp, a young man schooled in road racing, skilled in the Indy cars, tremendous history, tremendous family legacy as a race driver. 2 attempts scored against this car, and he rolls out now on the first of 2 possible warm-up laps before qualifying at Indianapolis. Everybody out a little bit earlier. More than a little bit, a half an hour earlier than we expected. The rush started when A.J. Foyt pushed this car to the front of the line, and then everybody ran for their equipment and tried to get into position.
And he will take 3 warm-up laps. Drives out of the pit lane, past the starter stand for the first time. Believe it or not, they'll even measure this second warm-up lap because Foyt will time Scott Sharp coming off turn 4. He gets an indication whether he likes the tires, whether the car likes the tires. The driver can do a little bit, but he can only manhandle it to a certain extent here when you run at these high speeds between the concrete walls.
2 attempts scored against this car, both of them 3 laps long. The first he averaged 224.7 miles an hour and waved off. That was yesterday, and then came back a little bit later, about 50 minutes later, and ran 3 laps averaging 225.021. And here he starts what will be the last attempt to be charged against this car. Scott Sharp works her down into the first turn. And already across the short chute.
And everybody that knows Scott Sharp, you better hold your collective breaths because this is going to be
His only attempt, a good speed into turn 1, 233. When you get a speed like that, you're usually above 225. Watch for turn 3. Not great. Needs to be above 230 down there. 223, so he loses 5 miles an hour there. Exit speed off 4. 221, not bad, not bad. Voigt says he'll take anything above 225.5.
And the first lap comes in for Scott Sharp at 225.9, nearly 226.
Oh, everybody's in the grandstand is standing. They just announced his time. Big cheer for Scott Sharp because he's in A.J. Foyt's car. They want Foyt to have a second car in the race here.
He works down the backstretch now, turns it into turn 3.
Oh, much faster lap. Look at that straight line. Look at that entry speed. Turns 3 and 4. He's not as quick at the bottom of the racetrack, the north end. 220, loses a little bit of time off turn 4. However, the turn 1 of that lap will make this average speed a little bit higher. No, it's a little bit lower.
225.666. He's averaging 225.813 and running potentially for the 32nd qualifying position.
Oh, it's a good run so far. It's a good run so far. He would not be by a long shot the slowest man on the field, but he needs the consistency. Looks good. Oh, he raises it a little bit into turn 3. This looks better. Consistency, you have to match it with speed. Is he a bit quicker off turn 4?
No.
Oh, drops down just a tad.
Watch for the computation on lap number 3, and the third lap comes up at 226.142. So he was able to pick the speed up, and he's averaging 225.923 miles an hour.
He's home and dry if he can just make one more lap. The tires are obviously good. The stagger does not affect him. Drops down to 221 exiting turn 2. Into 3. Oh, he drops down a mile an hour. Sometimes a driver will back off a little bit if he thinks he's safely in. He'll just make sure, oh, he backs down another bit. That means his exit speed will be a bit slower. 219 down to 218. I still think he's safe.
The average will be critical, though, on whether or not he's on the inside of the last row or the center position. 225.711 for the 4-lap average. That will put him in the center of the 11th and final row. A.J. Foyt now has 2 cars in this field.
Oh, and I think he will be safe. We only have 45 minutes left. He's faster than Lynn St. James. He's faster than Salazar. And Emerson. Ooh. He's never in his racing career ever had to face a situation like this in the past. World champion, IndyCar champion, double Indy 500 champion.
And never having driven a Lola. He's in one now, and it is his only hope.
We'll use the same 3 laps. Out of the pits, a flying lap gives him a feel. He needs that flying lap because that's what gives him the feel and that's what gives him the confidence. Can he charge absolutely flat out into turn 1 when it counts? This is the warm-up lap that gives him that indication. He has a digital readout on his dashboard. He knows as soon as he crosses the start-finish line exactly what speed he is doing in the car. Look at the color scheme. So unfamiliar to see Miller Genuine Draft with Marlboro on the side and Emerson's helmet in it.
One attempt charged against this car yesterday afternoon at 225.498 miles an hour, an average for 3 laps for Emerson Fittipaldi. So he has 2 more chances in this car. That is assuming that he can actually get back into the qualifying line and present again should he wave off from this one. Some very tense people down at Penske Racing as they pushed the car up to the line and brought it out for qualifying.
Oh, that's a pretty good apex speed at turn 1, 233. That's the type of numbers he needs. You can see he lost 11 miles an hour, which indicates bad handling. He's got to come out of the power. Oh, 229 and 3. That's not bad. It's not bad. It's still quick enough to qualify if he can maintain at 221. Look at that. He lost 8 miles an hour halfway through the short chute. 9 miles an hour That's still good. This is a good enough average to keep him in the field.
Look at the first lap now. 2:25.451. 2:25.451. That's going to be marginal for this field. He's got to definitely try and get that average up.
Look at that, 2:34. He still drops off. His exit speed off turn 2 and turn 4 is what's beginning to kill the speed in this car. He needs to try and pick that up. He's doing all he can. Oh, he dropped down into turn 3 also. What's its exit speed? 2:20. It's going to be close.
Looking for the completion of the second lap for Emerson Fittipaldi. The second attempt on the car. The speed falls off badly at 2:24.871 miles an hour. Now he's averaging 225.160. Would he take that average, he will be the slowest car in the field.
Oh, Emerson is beginning to flirt with danger here because the speed, from what we see, it's not there yet. Up a mile an hour into 3. That's not a good speed across the short chute in 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. Oh, drops down. If he's slow off 4, he's slow down this front straight. This doesn't look like a good lap.
It's decision time for Penske Racing now. The third lap at 224.243 miles an hour, averaging 224.854. Now, will they take this run or wait for the third possible attempt on this car, the last possible attempt? Keeping an eye on the starter, keeping an eye down at the Penske team members at the far end of the pit area as Emerson Fittipaldi tries desperately to make it into the 500 field. Will they take it? Will they take the run? Will they take the run? And they do. The checkered flag flies for Emerson Fittipaldi. He completed the fourth lap at 225.068 miles an hour, averaging 224.907 miles an hour. Emerson Fittipaldi is in the 33rd and final qualifying position. The field at Indianapolis is full. The bumping is ready to begin. Fittipaldi takes a speed that some people would truly question, especially with a lineup of cars, but perhaps they counted the cars there and decided, well, there's just no room to come on back. Back at Indianapolis, ready to start the bumping. The man on the bubble, the 92 car, Frank Freon. You met him just a little bit earlier here. And Emerson Fittipaldi yesterday waved off a 225 average for 3 laps, and then today accepted 224.907 miles an hour. Derek, what do you think the game is?
I don't think they believed they had any more to get from that car, because otherwise it makes no sense to accept a speed like that. Davey Hamilton now, who went above 226 miles an hour earlier. In fact, his first lap speed is above 226. So Emerson is really in deep trouble now.
A good lap for Hamilton, 226.466 miles an hour. His first lap. Remember, he was in an accident earlier. He now drives with pins in his right ankle, some bruised knees. The accident itself was quite spectacular. No fear whatsoever here, though. He is out and running at better than 226 miles an hour.
And Ron Hemmelgarn gave a young American driver a chance to come to Indianapolis. He was a friend of Billy Vukovic, who drove for Ron Hemmelgarn here, and the crowd are absolutely on their feet here. Another 226.1.
And just so you understand, this cheer that goes up is for the Pacers beating the Knicks 97-95 final score. I guess you can believe that the Pacers are very popular here in their hometown. The crowd on their feet while Davey Hamilton takes the run. I hope that he doesn't hear that cheer and wonder what's going on.
Well, if he did, it caused him to back off the power, because look at that 209 out of turn 2 and 211. He's in trouble. There's something gone wrong here. Something gone badly wrong in Davey Hamilton's run. This is not a fast lap.
The bubble speed, you see it at 224.432. That's Frank Freon. Third lap, 216.956. They've got to wave it off now. We'll see what they do, but he fell off very badly. You were right, Derek. Something terribly wrong.
In deep trouble. Davey Hamilton is deep trouble. It sounded as if it was misfiring when he went by here, but look at those speeds. Wave it off. Davy Hamilton is not going to be in the race with this particular run here, and Davy Jones is next.
Davy Hamilton still keeps the car on the line, dials it off the fourth and final turn and onto the front stretch at Indianapolis, though we watch for a yellow flag to see if they will wave off the run, and they do indeed. So Davy Hamilton has waved off the run, and the qualifying will continue here at Indianapolis with Davy Jones being the next ready to go. Davy Jones is on the track, the third and final attempt for this, the 77 car, as he brings it up to speed. When Emerson Fittipaldi pulled in, Gary Gerald was there waiting for him.
Emerson, I get the feeling as you got out of the car, you're not happy with this time.
No, not happy because yes, I went faster, and you know, much faster than today. And I had a pop-up valve blowing off today. It was a shame.
Was there just nothing more in the car, Emerson?
No, nothing more.
How disappointing in view of what you might have had yesterday when that was waved off?
Well, very disappointed because I was solid on the field yesterday.
Thank you, Emerson.
So on the course now, Davy Jones, he's just completed the first lap at 2:24.972 miles an hour. And the line here on the main straightaway is Johansson next, and then Marco Greco, and then Eliseo Salazar, who theoretically by then would be bumped out, and then Al Unser Jr.
So Davy Jones starts off with a poor and a slow first lap. However, look at those speeds pick up. 230-mile-an-hour apex into turn one. That is better. That is faster. He can bump out Frank Freon. Frank Freon cannot come back. He has no other cars. Davy Jones, second lap.
Comes up at 225.062, averaging 225.017. Enough to put Frank Freon out of the field if he maintains the average.
Davy Jones, who did speeds of above 226 earlier today. Even in the heat of the day, Davy Jones was fast. But he needs to pick this up a little bit. He will beat Frank Freon if he just maintains this pace. But he's way too close to the bubble for comfort. Oh, the speed drops down again into 3. And it's the same off turn 4. Still hasn't picked it up enough for comfort.
Down the grandstand shadowed main straightaway, the third lap drops off to 224.949, averaging 224.994 miles an hour.
A tick quicker than Emerson and quicker than Frank Freon. This has to be a better lap. It needs to be a better lap. He's slow at the north end of the racetrack. Look at that 226. Oh, it's a tick quicker. 1 mile an hour there. Short shoot a tick quicker. This is a bit better for Davy. A mile an hour off 4. No, it's the same, but it might be just a tick quicker to give him a comfort zone. He has to take the flag.
They take the run in the fourth lap at 225.558 miles an hour. The 4-lap average at 225.135 miles an hour. And Frank Freon is bumped out of the 500 field.
He gave it all he had. A 92 Lola with the Buick engine. He couldn't squeeze any more speed, and he misses the show. And Stefan Johansson will now try and bump out Emerson Fittipaldi.
Interesting contrast here, and this is a team that has normally driven Penske cars, receives a great deal of help. Tony Bettenhausen and his team and his driver, Stefan Johansson, from the Penske team, but now they're in the rather awkward position of having to fight for their own lives here at the Speedway and try to get a Penske car out of the field.
And one of the most unusual things about Indianapolis is having the speed is no good. You have to have it at a specific time. Johansson had above 226 earlier today. Theoretically, the time to run on the racetrack should be faster right now. But it's no good if he can't muster and find the speed right now. He's trying to bump out Emerson Fittipaldi. Will leave Salazar on the bubble. He may get bumped out by Marco Greco. If he does, Salazar is right behind him with another car that did 226 earlier. Wow.
So on the course, Stefan Johansson, transplanted from Sweden to the United States. Competent Formula One driver, tremendous road racing background, has yet to score a win in the Indy cars, but is so very, very close.
We heard Tony Bettenhausen tell us earlier he had problems with the pop-off valve. What they told Stefan is, don't touch it. Don't go near it. Don't try and dial a little bit of more boost, because it's so dangerous. If you lift that valve, for all intents and purposes, it's over. Speed into turn 1, 230. That is only average at best. He needs more than that. 223 off turn 2.
One attempt charged against this car at 224, 495 miles an hour for 3 laps. If he can't do better than that, then he cannot move Fittipaldi off of the bubble.
Oh, it doesn't look good. In 3 and 4. 222, 221, only an average lap. Let's wait, see what the speed is.
The first lap complete for Stefan Johansson, 224, 669 miles an hour. Faster than yesterday's average, but not fast enough to put Fittipaldi off the bubble.
Not fast enough, and he's losing time. Between turns 1 and 2, Stefan Johansson has gone slower this run. Oh, he's slower into turn 3. Watch the short shoot. Oh, he's slower. This is not a good lap. Not a good lap for Stefan Johansson.
2 attempts charged against this car. For the moment, Fittipaldi is safe on the bubble. Looking for the second lap now. 223, 691. You were right, Derek. Falling off badly. Still not fast enough to make it into this field.
Stefan is in trouble when he begins to turn in to 2 and 4. Oh, he's down to 219. He is in deep trouble. He is in deep trouble. He cannot take this run because it just simply is not fast enough. He's got to go to the back of the line. No option.
His car owner, Tony Bettenhausen, has picked up, though not yet waved, the yellow flag, indicating that they would wave him off this run and leave him with a single attempt and about 33 minutes to go. There he waves the flag. Now, can he get back into line, and can he in that time get the speed up? So Emerson Fittipaldi is safe for the moment, but moving out quickly will be Marco Greco. Back at Indianapolis, Emerson Fittipaldi is still on the bubble. He is the slowest car in the 500-mile race field, followed by Eliseo Salazar. But there's an interesting thing. If he's not bumped out, which he wouldn't be, would they withdraw the car? Will they do what Derek Walker did yesterday and withdraw it and qualify it back in? There's not that much time left, Derek.
That is a major decision Dick Simon will make in the few minutes, because this man here, Al Unser Jr., is right behind Salazar. So Salazar has virtually no confidence that his speed can keep him in, but he has to withdraw the car. So what does he do? Does he take a risk and take it out? The car already qualified, thinking that Al Jr. can go faster? Yes, he does. He pulls it out of line as the green flag is waved for Marco Greco.
So Salazar decides that this qualification attempt that they were anticipating does not need to be made at this time. There may be time left. On the course now, Marco Greco driving for Rick Gallis, Albuquerque, New Mexico team. The car has not yet had an attempt charged against it, so he has 3 opportunities. He won't have time for 3 opportunities with just under 30 minutes to go.
And obviously with Quaker State and Tecate, you will recognize this is Fernandez's car, Adrian Fernandez, and this is not a good lap. This is nowhere near qualifying speed.
Well, this is a backup car that really hasn't been much above 215. We'll see how it comes up. 222, so he's given it a pretty good run. 222, 778.
Oh, look at the entry speed now, how much it picked up. Obviously, he needs to get some confidence in this car. Oh, way slow off turn 2. So he was fast into 1 and lost all that momentum into 2. Does he pick the speed up into turn 3? No, not a good lap here. A bit quicker, I think, but nowhere near qualifying pace.
You see the bubble speed at 224.907. That's the speed that belongs to Emerson Fittipaldi, 2-time champion here. Marco Greco completes the second lap. One of the Brazilian group drops down to 221.293. Obviously not fast enough to make it into the field. Certainly not fast enough. They wave it off. So he still has another opportunity. Another car back there in line. The question is, will he have the time?
Well, nowhere near qualifying. Now, the interesting thing with Marco Greco, they have his own spare car in the line. It's behind Al Jr., behind Jeff Ward, and then it comes up to Marco Greco again. But Al Unser Jr., the focus is now on him.
And here is exactly the situation that you presented at the start of the show. Al Unser Jr. in position to bump his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi out of the field. What a dilemma for Penske Racing.
Well, at this stage, there will only be one Penske in this race, and Al Unser Jr. will have a decision now as to who, a hand to play in as to who it will be.
You saw the trauma that Shelley Unser was going through there. Jerry Punch, you were watching the last run on this car.
Unbelievably, Paul. Remember about 20 minutes ago when he went out, they ran one lap and the car shut off. They brought the car back in. They put it directly in line to qualify. We told you they thought it may be an electronic problem. I talked to Chuck Sprague. He said, we think that what happened was a simple vapor lock. And actually, the Penskes are not as prone to vapor lock, he said, as the Lolas. The plumbing's a little bit different. We don't need a vapor lock right now. We just put the car in line, cranked it back up, and hopefully he will get 4 uninterrupted laps.
A car that is unknown for the team. They've worked with their own cars. This is the Lola, borrowed from Ray Hall Hogan Racing. Al Unser Jr. has tried to get it up to speed for qualifying twice. First time he waved off after 2 laps at 224 miles an hour. His second attempt ran at 223.480 miles an hour. Both of those yesterday. This is the third and final attempt on this car for little Al.
Never have we seen this before. He could bump his teammate out of the race and have no guarantee that he's in it himself, because there are more cars in line behind him trying to get in this race.
The run begins for the defending champion of the 500, the defending pole sitter. Al Unser Jr. never has an Indy 500 champion come back to the 500 trying to qualify and not made it into the field.
231 into turn 1, but look at the amount he lost between the short chute and then into turn 2. Whoa, this does not look good.
Attempting to bump out his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi's speed 224.907.
Loses a huge amount of time in the short chute. 217 off turn 4. Not a good lap for Al Unser Jr.
Here comes the first indication as he goes into 221.992 miles an hour. Not nearly good enough for the defending champion.
He's obviously able to carry the speed down the front straight and into turn 1. But then, look at the handling difficulties he has with the car. Perhaps he's got way too much push because he's out of the power and loses a huge amount of time and speed. And of course, that makes him slow all the way down that long, long back straight. Picks it up a little bit in the middle of the short chute between 3 and 4. Exit speed off 4. Has to be higher. It can't be any slower than that. Still not a good lap.
Imagine what he's feeling in the cockpit. He knows how fast, or rather how slow it is, but he did bring the lap up to 224.092. The average at 223.037. Not enough to take Fittipaldi out of the field. He has 2 laps to go. The third and final attempt on this car.
Oh, he needs to dig deeper, and he is beginning to dig deeper. You have to get brave sometimes. He doesn't like being too brave between the concrete walls, but this is faster. This lap is considerably faster.
The Indianapolis 500, the most important event in this man's life. It is all he has ever dreamed of. 9 times the Unser family has taken the checkered flag here at Indianapolis. The third lap complete. 225.113. It begins to climb. The average 223.725. The last lap will tell the tale, and it will have to be hot.
And that first lap of 221 may tell the story, because I don't see enough speed here through our speed traps to lift Al Unser into the 227s or 8 range, which is what it'll take to bring that average above Emerson's. Al Jr. is in deep trouble.
Heading for the checkered flag, keeping an eye now on the final lap average. He has to beat 224.9. 2:24.907. He can't do it. He doesn't do it. Al Unser Jr. has not yet qualified. Fittipaldi is still in the field. Now what will this man, Roger Penske, do? The team has never been in this situation. 24 minutes to go. Cars still in line. Many cars still in line. They have no other car available. The C-Plan is the Reynard. It's not been as fast as the Lola.
Al Unser Jr. in the Reynard has never been fast. He used it today. It never performed. And all they can do is shake their head because the hours and toil and turmoil of this month of May beginning to wear everybody down at the Marlboro Team Penske. Who'd have believed it?
So slowly now, Al Unser Jr. One victory this year at Long Beach, but he can't make it into the 500. At least he hasn't done so yet, and he is running out of time. On the course, Jeff Ward and Roger Penske making some decisions. No comparable event in the annals of modern sport. On the course now is Jeff Ward, who just turned a lap at 226.074 miles an hour. Plenty fast enough to knock the second Penske car of Emerson Fittipaldi out of the field. And Al Unser Jr. has taken all of his shots with the Lola. The defending champion of the Indy 500 is not in the field. And at this point, I would say it is not likely he will be.
At this point, no. And what makes it all the more remarkable, Jeff Ward has only done 15 single-seater races in his whole career as a racing driver. He's been multi-motocross champion, but just look at the speed he carries in through turn one and down that front straight.
Second lap at 2:24.361, averaging 2:25.214. Fast enough to take Emerson Fittipaldi out of the field.
Beginning to slow down off turn two. He needs to pick the speed up into turn three. 2:23. Oh, he does. 2:26. Jeff Ward looks really good so far. Turn short chute, little bit lost. 2:20. What will that read? 2:18. Oh, he drops down a little bit.
Watching is Jeff Ward. Great motorcycle champion in Supercross and motocross. Completes a third lap at 2:23.869. But look at the average. The average has dropped down below that could take Fittipaldi out.
Oh, Jeff Ward is so close, but he's not in yet. 2:18 off turn two is not good enough. He needs to be quicker at 3 and 4. 2:26. Oh, he drops down. Jeff Ward's in trouble.
This is the second attempt on this car, so they could wave this one off and still have another shot at it. We keep an eye up to the north end. They do wave it off. So Jeff Ward takes the wave off. He looked good for a couple of laps there and looked like he might have made it into the field. Al Unser Jr. walks away, head down, dejected. What will they do now? Is there any chance at all? About 18 minutes to go. Emerson Fittipaldi is still on the bubble. Al Unser Jr. made his try. Now we have no idea what they're going to try next, if anything. Fittipaldi's bubble speed, 224.907 miles an hour. On the course, the third and final attempt for this car is Marco Greco. This is the car that they feel is faster. So on the first attempt, it was 2:24. Second attempt, speed fell off. They had a problem after the first lap. Mechanical problem that dropped them down to 2:17, and they waved it off. So this is the third and final attempt. It is a car that is capable of making it into the field.
Yes, it is. This is a car also owned by Rick Gallis, who runs Adrian Fernandez. We know that team can get the speed from these Lolas. He blew the pop-off valve off on his last attempt, which was yesterday. And now we see what turn one will bring.
218.691, not nearly quick enough. Now, will they stay out on the course or wave it off quickly so that other cars will be given an opportunity? That's the strategy that starts to play now. Will one owner help another? With that kind of speed, you know you can't get the speed up fast enough. You'd need a lap over 2:34, and Roberto Guerrero, for one, doesn't want to see that.
Nowhere near qualifying speed. Nowhere near. Needs to come off the racetrack. Nowhere near it. Doesn't matter what he picks up from here on in.
The word from just up the tech line as they wave off Marco Greco is that both of Roger Penske's Penske chassis are going to be pushed into line. Cars that have not been nearly fast enough, there they are, being pushed back at the back of the tech line. Emerson Fittipaldi still on the bubble. Al Unser Jr. not in the show. Marco Greco waving off on the third attempt. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, they are two Penske entrants, but one car you're looking at there was a Penske, but up ahead is the Reynard. These are the other two cars that Al Unser Jr. has spent time in. Now, they're very far back in line. I don't think they have a shot at getting Al Unser Jr. in either of these cars. I think what they're doing is they're trying to protect other people from getting into line. In other words, trying to jam up the line with their cars, so hopefully Emerson Fittipaldi can stay in.
Well, in theory, we probably only have time for 4, perhaps 5 more qualifiers before the final gun sounds for qualifying for the 79th Indy 500. Stefan Johansson has another car in line ready to go, and on the course now is Davey Hamilton once again.
And Emerson Fittipaldi has now dodged 4 bullets. 4 cars had the potential to knock him out of this race. And let me tell you this, Davey Hamilton in this community effort car here definitely has the potential to knock Emerson out.
What spirit in this young man. A devastating crash a little over a week ago, broken right ankle, gets it pinned, rushes out of the hospital to come back and get the approval of the physicians here to run at Indianapolis, and he's trying to make it into his first Indianapolis 500.
And his dad tried to make it into the Indy 500 back in '82 and '83, and one of the most awkward looking cars that ever appeared here, something like a lobster claw front end on it. He was wise enough not to make an attempt, and in fact Ron Hemmelgarn, who owns this car, now owns his dad's old car that will be restored in the very near future. Comes from Super Modifieds, well known on the West Coast. A lot of people on the West Coast now holding their breath for Davey Hamilton.
1 attempt charged against this car. He ran 3 laps at 223.091. You saw that just a few minutes ago. Not fast enough to take Fittipaldi off. They pulled it out, put it back in the line, and here we go again.
The 94 Reynard. It has a Ford engine. He destroyed one last week. The broken ankle that has pins inserted does not give him any trouble, he said, but the severe bruising on his knees meant he hobbled right by our position here to get into this racing car. Racing drivers are able to put it out of their mind and get on with the business of going fast. But that 219 speed off turn 2, I don't like to see that when you need a lap speed averaging above 225 miles an hour, or that 217.
We watched Davey Hamilton completing the first of 4 laps. 2:23.004, not nearly fast enough. Gary Gerald, you have an update on the Penskes?
Paul, we're back in Gasoline Alley. We followed Al Unser Jr. in the golf cart back into the garage. Emerson Fittipaldi was back in here. Emerson is very, very emotional and upset because of what transpired yesterday, unable to get into the field today with that slower speed or getting in and then being bumped. I had a quick word with Richard Buck as they brought one of the cars into the garage. All the doors are down. All the doors are locked. The entire team is sequestered in there. I asked Richard, are there any options left at this point? He shook his head and said no, unless something miraculous transpires. But as you well know, with about 12 minutes to go, the odds are looking very, very bleak for Team Penske right now.
Fittipaldi is on the bubble at 224.907.
Davey Hamilton is in trouble here because we see a very inconsistent run. He is able to carry the speed down the front straight, but as soon as he gets to the corners, this car does not handle well. So Davey Hamilton is in deep trouble here. 217 into turn 3. He's not going to make it. I don't care if he does another 6 laps, he's not going to make it.
Over 2 miles an hour off the average needed to bump Emerson Fittipaldi, who currently occupies 33rd position out of the field. Conclusion of lap number 3. 217. They should wave this car off, give other drivers a chance. And they do. The car waved off for Davey Hamilton. So next out will be Stefan Johansson as he tries to come back and make another attempt to get in. Davey Hamilton hasn't made it. ESPN's coverage of Bubble Day, the 4th day of time trials for the 79th Indy 500, has been brought to you by True Value. No matter what you need, help is just around the corner. By Zima Gold, kiss your expectations goodbye. And by by Mobil 1, the leading synthetic motor oil. On the 2.5 miles of Indianapolis now, Stefan Johansson. The car has had 2 attempts clocked against it. One yesterday at 2:24.4. Then today, not long ago, at 2:24.179. The bubble speed is Emerson Fittipaldi's at 2:24.907.
And we mentioned earlier, he has the speed in this car, but he doesn't have the speed when it counts. You have to produce it right now, Stefan, if you're going to make it into this race.
But Jan Bikus, they have made some changes since that last run.
Yes, they have, Paul. They've made big changes. I had a chance to talk with Stefan. He said he went absolutely flat out in that first run, and somehow the car was not free. Somehow it had too much downforce. Some reason it just wasn't running down the straightaway. They stripped an enormous amount of downforce off this car. Now it's for him to try and hold it down again to see if they can get the speed up.
So the car's loosened up, more in Stefan's hands.
And of course the trade-off is, can you stay flat through the corners? And 2:24.8 is right on the bubble of being able to knock Emerson off, but he's got to pick it up a little bit.
Definitely going to have to pick up during the next 3 laps, averaging 2:24.8. Emerson's in at 2:24.907. That's the bubble speed.
Oh, this is better for Stefan. This is better. Tony Bettenhausen is absolutely chewing his nails at the moment. It's faster everywhere on the racetrack so far. So the Alumax car may have a starting spot, and Roger Penske's customer may knock him out of the Indy 500, and it's with his competitors, Reynard.
Owner Tony Bettenhausen with that tremendous family legacy here. He brings the speed up. Stefan Johansson at 2:25.739. He's averaging 2:25.282, fast enough to take Emerson Fittipaldi out of the field.
Oh, Stefan looks good. He's only halfway through. He needs to carry the speed, and he needs to be consistent. He is faster again. Whatever they did to the car, it has proved to be the right decision. Same speed at the short chute. Same speed off turn 4, but this looks like a better lap overall.
Can he maintain the average? It looks much better. We'll take a look at the third lap. 2:25.9. He's averaging 2:25.494, and that is fast enough.
Just about 2 miles to go, and we will have no Penske driver in this race. Johansson about to knock off the double IndyCar champion, former world champion, and he has everything he needs. He just needs one more corner.
Tony Bettenhausen and his driver Stefan Johansson, they stuck with the Reynard. Worked on it as hard as they could, made drastic changes, as you heard Jan Bikus tell you, and here he takes the lap. And the 4th lap complete. And 2:25.547 takes Emerson Fittipaldi, the second and final Penske car, out of the field. Tony Bettenhausen has a car in the field. And look at the joy and the celebration for the Alumax team down there. Tony Bettenhausen, a driver himself, he's worked so hard at it. Dick Simon there, John Menard there. Everybody celebrating what is a very popular run here, but a tragedy for the Penske team. Let's go to Jan.
Congratulations, Tony. Do you ever think you bumped Emerson?
No, and I'm sorry to see it happen. I really am.
I bet he is. I bet he's sorry to see it happen. He is delighted to see it happen because Stefan gets an opportunity. What a great day for Tony Bettenhausen, who is in so much trouble trying to get a Penske in the field first, then trying to get a Reynard in the field, and Johansson takes the applause from everybody down the pit lane here.
Standing ovation on the 5/8 of a mile front stretch here in Indianapolis for Stefan Johansson. Hear the sound of his engine as he rolls down, the crew out looking for him. They want to get that qualifying picture. Stefan Johansson has made it into the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and Emerson Fittipaldi is out.
I think you should say that again. He's what?
Out.
Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. will not be in the Indy 500 as it stands right now.
There is no occurrence in modern sport, that parallels this. The defending champion, 4 total wins between those two drivers, Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr., the defending pole sitter, and they are not in this 500 field, and there's about 6 minutes to go, and absolutely no possibility, despite the fact those cars are back in line. So now Stefan Johansson climbs out of the car. Congratulated by his crew, receives the applause of everybody around. A great hug there from his new bride. Gary Gerald waits. Gary, the spirit down there must be spectacular.
Well, we talk so much about the mysteries, the intrigues of Indianapolis, the emotion. Man, the hair is standing up on the back of my neck, Paul. I can tell you that right now. Stefan still hasn't taken off the helmet. One by one, the crew members, hugs, high fives, handshakes. Jim Philippi of the public address system there to get a word, and we'll try to get now the embrace from Tony B. His wife again stepping in. Oh my, Stefan is in the field, and what high drama here in these final moments.
So Stefan Johansson makes it into the field. Let me reset the last two rows for you now. Marco Greco is trying to get in the car so that he can get out on a qualification run. Here's the way it stands right now. The 10th row is Christian Fittipaldi, Lynn St. James, and Carlos Guerrero. Eliseo Salazar, who is currently lined up on the inside of the 9th row, is on the bubble. The 11th row is Scott Sharp, Davy Jones, and Stefan Johansson. The bubble is Eliseo Salazar. Marco Greco has pushed his car as quickly as he can down the line. We are in the final minutes. Let's go back to Gary Gerald.
And a quick word from Stefan Johansson, the emotion of this moment after battling and now knocking Team Penske out of the Indy 500.
Well, obviously that's you know, that's the sad part of all this. I mean, it's you know, I don't think that's how it should be. I mean, you know, I mean, obviously Penske certainly belong in this race, but we've had such a rough time, all of us, you know, us and the Penske team this month. I'm just real happy particularly for all the guys in the team, because it's been the toughest 3 weeks I've ever had.
Well, you guys have deserved it. It's the work that pays off literally at the last minute. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stefan Johansson and the crew celebrate.
Roger Penske's favorite motto is effort equals results. Sometimes it doesn't pay dividends immediately because they put the effort in this month of May and did not get the results. But it's not over yet. Look at this.
Marco Greco back in one of the Rick Gallus cars, trying to knock Eliseo Salazar off of his position, the slowest car in the field, now at 22:25.023. Team Penske, first time, 26 years, no car in the race.
Marco Greco takes the Quaker State Tecate Fernandez car out. He's on brand new tires. He may be the last qualifier. Johnny Parsons has just rolled his car up here in front of us, and they will watch to see, can they get a run in before 6 o'clock. It depends on whether Greco is quick enough or not. If Greco is slow and they take him off the racetrack, perhaps Johnny Parsons might get an opportunity. He's got to wait, though, to see what Greco does.
So Marco Greco back on the track once again. Johnny Parsons Jr., son of a great champion, great racing family. Many, many good runs here at Indianapolis. But Marco Greco stands between him and a qualification attempt, and time is running out now with just at 3 minutes to go.
When you drive a strange car, how can you possibly hold your foot flat all the way through a corner that's above 227 miles an hour, even if you're just going slow? That's now what Rick Gallus hopes Marco Greco can do. But it is a tall order to jump into a strange car, even if the car handles reasonably well. Confidence is what you need.
So Marco Greco, one qualification attempt on this car about an hour ago at 222.033 miles an hour. This is his second attempt on the car with 1 minute to the final gun here at Indianapolis that will end the time trials for the 79th running of the Indy 500. Now, the rules allow that if your car is out and rolling on a qualification attempt, you can go ahead and finish that attempt after 6 o'clock. Marco Greco now on his first lap. And the speeds here are critical. They're always critical here.
They're critical and they're slow. 229 is not fast enough. 215 exit off turn 2 is not fast enough. This will not get the job done.
Will they recognize that and pull this car off, giving Johnny Parsons Jr. a chance? His engine warms just a few feet from where we stand right now. Marco Greco, 216.
Bad exit,
turn 4.
Bad exit speed. They will have have to give him one more lap to see if the new tires come up to temperature and come up to stagger and bring the speed up. But the gun has gone off, so Johnny Parsons will not get a chance anyway.
And Marco Greco's lap at 220.340 miles an hour. Not nearly fast enough. But still, he can stay on the course until they wave off or he fails to qualify.
And for sure one of those will happen, because these speeds are not fast enough. He's going through the motions, but with the first lap at 220, there is virtually no hope for Marco Greco to go fast enough.
Eliseo Salazar has to be breathing much easier now. Second lap on Marco Greco's run coming to conclusion. He brings it up substantially to 222.535, but still not nearly quick enough to take the bubble. Eliseo Salazar's speed at 225.023 miles an hour.
So part of the Brazilian bunch, Marco Greco, nowhere near fast enough. Put her away, boys. She'll be a spare car for race day. And get her ready for Milwaukee, because this car will not race.
The Gallus team has one car in the field. Adrian Fernandez, nice run yesterday. But Marco Greco, and it sputters as he heads down the main stretch. And the second lap at 222.535, averaging 221.4.
And it's over. It's over for Marco Greco.
Can't possibly get it done. So here's the way the field is set and now locked for the 79th running of the Indianapolis 500. On the pole, Scott Brayton. Menard Lola alongside his teammate Ari Lyondike. Again, Menard Power, Lola Chassis, and Scott Goodyear on the outside of the front row with a Honda-powered machine and Firestone tires.
Row 2, the first of the Ford-powered cars. Michael Andretti, Jacques Villeneuve, also Ford-powered, and Maurizio Gugelmin.
In row number 3 now, locked positions for Indy. Robbie Gordon, Scott Pruitt, and Jimmy Vasser.
Back to row 4, all Firestone. Matt Schuster from Japan, Stan Fox right here in America, and the Brazilian boy, Ribeiro.
In the 5th row, Roberto Guerrero, still with a track record for another year. Eddie Cheever and Teo Fabi.
Row 6, Paul Tracy, Zampedri, and Brian Herta.
In the 7th row, Danny Sullivan, rookie Gilda Farron, and sophomore Hideshi Matsuda.
And row 8, Bobby Rahal makes it. Beside him his teammate Raul Bozel, and the man who got the golden opportunity from John Menard qualifies, Buddy Lazier.
The 9th row, Eliseo Salazar, who holds his breath and stays in the field. Adrian Fernandez with a great run yesterday, and Eric Bachelard.
And the only Fittipaldi in the field is Christian. Beside him, Lynn St. James, the only female in the race, and Carlos Guerrero, who did a superb job here all month.
And the 11th and final row is now Scott Sharp, Stefan Johansson, and Davy Jones. Not his picture, but nonetheless, Davy Jones is in the field. So qualifying the 4 days of time trials is now complete. And Roger Penske's cars are not in the Indianapolis 500. This will stimulate newspaper reports around the globe for the remaining week. Many stories to come out of this. Allenzer Jr. and Fittipaldi are out. The field is set. I'm Paul Page for Derek Daly. So long from Indianapolis.